Warcraft, the Tree of Eternity. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 301, Return to the Wind Whispering Forest. Looking back at the palace of the Holy Lion Empire, Yufei silently left the imperial capital. The next time I come here, I must get the heart of the sky, even if it is the jewel in the crown. At this time, the atmosphere in the palace of the Holy Lion Empire was a bit solemn. It has been a long time since there has been an intruder like Yufei in the palace. The hiding method is not good, and it was discovered by 4 epic mages. This is nothing. Under the detection methods of 4 epic mages in the Mage Tower, countless intruders have been discovered early. However, after being discovered, the intruder was actually allowed to run away! And before running away, he set a fire to the palace! This is really too arrogant. Although several epic mages handled it quickly and put out the fire caused by the flame vine in time, the flame vine that spread everywhere before that had already caused fires in many places. Although the 4 mages angrily destroyed all the twisting flame vines, the previous fire had already attracted the attention of the people inside the palace. Although it was midnight, the 4 epic level mages were quickly summoned by Saint Peter 24 to the palace to inquire about the situation. Although the epic level masters were in a high position as the guardians of the palace, they not only failed to catch the intruders, but also caused the intruders to set a fire. Although no major losses were caused, it was not good for the face of the empire after all. Fortunately, Saint Peter 24 did not blame the 4 mages. Instead, after listening to the whole incident narrated by the 4 mages, he said that the 4 mages had done a good job. This made the 4 ashamed epic level mages speechless. Finally, Saint Peter 24 came to a conclusion. In the future, the security of the outer periphery of the palace will still be guarded by the 4 epic level mages. However, if the situation that happened this time occurs again, they must quickly send magic messages to the palace to request support, and be sure to keep any uninvited guests who dare to break into the palace. Another thing is that for the guy who entered the palace and set a fire and escaped unscathed, don't pursue him openly, but mobilize intelligence forces to search for him privately. The spell used by the intruder was very unique. If it was used in other places, it would definitely be discovered. However, how could Yufei not have considered this problem? On the one hand, he hid his identity as the Elf King, hoping that the relationship between the Holy Lion Empire and the Elf Empire would remain harmonious for the time being. On the other hand, he released his own skills. Wouldn't this expose his identity? Of course, Yufei would not be so stupid. He had his own considerations. Of course, he would not stop using the leaf dance and ivy growing skills in the future. As long as these 2 skills were used in public, even if the Holy Lion Empire did not know that the intruder was the Elf King, it would infer that the guy who broke into the palace had a relationship with the Dark Knight Empire. But all Yufei wanted was to maintain a harmonious relationship temporarily. To become the Elf King, there were not many opportunities for Yufei to take action personally. And when Yufei needed to take action, it would be when the Dark Night Elves were going to unify Slays. At that time, would Yufei still care about exposing his identity? They were going to destroy your country, so what was the point of breaking into the palace once before? Taking many factors into consideration, Yufei felt that, as long as he was not caught, or his identity was not exposed on the spot, it would not matter if he was caught later. Therefore, without any psychological burden, he embarked on the road back to the Wind Whispering Forest. The territory of O'Brien is managed by the people of the Stanley Chamber of Commerce who are under his mental control, so Yufei does not need to worry about it. However, there are many things happening in the Dark Knight Empire. One is that the ship departing from the port of O'Brien is about to reach the northern icefield. After all, it is the first smuggling operation. This is related to whether the Night Elves can obtain enough energy in the human world in the future. Yufei is ready to participate in it personally. Another is that Yufei was stimulated by the huge number of high-level forces in the Elf King's court and the Holy Lion Empire, and came up with a plan to transform all the military leaders into heroes. In the process of conquering the Kingdom of Severn, Yufei obtained a lot of soul crystals. Originally, I was going to get more and fuse them all into higher level soul crystals before transforming the soldiers. However, after seeing the number of strong men in the top forces of Slays, Yufei thought again and again and decided to use the intermediate soul crystals to transform as many hero units as possible. If the high level strength of the Night Elves is not strong enough, it is not so convenient to surround and kill the strong men with the army alone. With enough strength to reach the epic level and a newly armed hero, why worry about not getting soul crystals? It was precisely because he found that the legendary epic level strong men on the continent were not as rare as he imagined that Yufei made such a decision. Although it may be a waste to fuse the intermediate soul crystals now, after the soldiers are transformed into heroes, they can still hunt strong men to earn the soul crystals they need in the future. In this way, it becomes a virtuous circle. Obtain soul crystals to improve strength, kill strong men. After improving strength, kill strong men. To obtain soul crystals to improve strength. Under this cycle, the high level strength of the Night Elves will become stronger and stronger like the middle level. It didn't take Yufei long to return to the Wind Whispering Forest. Although he did not rush at full speed, it only took Yufei 2 days to return from the Holy Lion Empire to the Dark Knight Empire. As soon as he returned to the Dark Knight Empire, Yufei issued an order. Under the order of the Elf King, Avril, who had become a hero, and several other military leaders came to the Dark Knight Palace, except for the Mountain Giant's military leader Tenno, who was too big and would definitely cause damage if he entered the palace. Yufei, who summoned a group of military leaders, did not hesitate and directly announced that the Great Father God, that is, his body, would grant the military leaders present divine grace and transform them all into heroes. Including Avril, who was transformed with lower level soul crystals before. They will all be transformed by the Father God into hero units with a maximum hero level of 7 using precious intermediate soul crystals. Upon hearing this news, all the military leaders were very excited. On the one hand, it was because this was the Father God's grace, and on the other hand, everyone wanted to improve their strength. Originally, it was nothing to be the same military leader, but after Avril became a hero, everyone had a comparison, and naturally hoped that they could become heroes too. After that, he went to Tenno to announce the matter again. Then, Yufei took the archer's chief soldier, Avril, who was still transformed into a night sentinel, the huntress chief soldier, Luna, the mountain giant's chief soldier, Tenno, the Dryad's chief soldier, Ayashisa, the Claw Druid's chief soldier, Yulia, the Raptor Druid's chief soldier, Addison, and the Elven Dragon's chief soldier, Stephanie, back to the main body. In the conquest of the Kingdom of Severn, Yufei obtained a total of 17 lower level soul crystals, and 1 intermediate soul crystal. Later, when strangling those rebellious nobles, he obtained some secondary soul crystals, and finally fused exactly 7 intermediate soul crystals, with 2 lower level soul crystals left. The Elder Altar can only perform the transformation ritual on 1 unit at a time, so although the 7 chief soldiers and Yufei himself are eager, they can only do it one by one. Although building more Elder Altars can allow several chief soldiers to start transforming at the same time, Yufei is not idle, so he will naturally not do that. The Night Elves are not short of energy now, but they should not waste it. Building more ancient trees such as the Ancient of Wind and other ancient trees can speed up the speed of the Night Elves' mass production. If several Elder Altars are built, they will only be used once. Isn't it a blatant waste? The first to hold the intermediate transformation ceremony was still Avril. Although Avril had been transformed into a Night Sentinel with the highest level of level 4 using lower level soul crystals, Yufei still felt that he should not favor one over the other. Just because Avril had been transformed once before, he would not allow her to transform again. Now other soldier chiefs envy Avril, but everyone else is the same, so they don't think it's a big deal. If other soldier chiefs use intermediate soul crystals to transform, they can be upgraded to the hero level 7, but only Avril can only be stuck at level 4, then Avril must be uncomfortable. The wisdom templates of these soldier chiefs are very advanced, and Yufei has to consider their emotional problems. The sound and light effects of the transformation ceremony were no different from the last time, but the time required for the transformation changed from 1 day to 3 days, probably because the last time was a lower level soul crystal and this time it was a mid-level one. If you calculate it this way, it will take a total of 21 days for the 7 soldiers to complete the transformation, so Yufei will naturally not wait here. The 2 ships departing from Aberlin port are estimated to arrive at the northern ice field in the next 2 days. Yufei decided to go to the northern ice field first to handle this matter. In front of Yufei's original body, the soldiers naturally would not have any opinions about Yufei's clone's departure. Because the original body was in charge of the matter here, Yufei did not say much, and left the wind whispering forest and headed north to the northern ice field. Although it was midsummer, the climate of the northern ice field was still cold. However, Yufei's clone is now an epic level strongman, and naturally will not be affected by this climate. After passing through the northern ice field, and passing through the tribe, where the Amazon people live, Yufei quietly came to a newly built port in the northernmost part of the northern ice field. This new port was actually built long before the northern ice field was conquered by the Night Elves. The port was already built before Yufei took over Robran. This was naturally the result of Yufei's preparations for a rainy day, and he didn't expect it to be put to use soon. Sorry everyone, Han Chen overslept, and got up at almost 7 o'clock. Chapter 300 should be revised around 10 o'clock. Chapter 302 The first batch of smuggled supplies. There are not many night elves in the port, but there are still some, and some trustworthy native elves who originally lived in the north were also stationed here. It was precisely because of this that Yufei was quickly recognized after entering the port, which made the entire North Port boil. Yufei's clone is now the Emperor of the Dark Knight Empire and the Emperor of the Elves. Although the northern ice field was not included in the territory of the Dark Knight Empire on the surface, when the founding of the country was announced, it had actually been conquered by the Night Elves long ago. The native elves who were sent to the northern port to perform some work naturally knew that the northern ice field was controlled by the Dark Knight Empire. Now that the Emperor of the Empire has come here, how can everyone not be excited? However, the most common race in the northern port is not the Night Elves or the native elves, but the Tusker people, the builders of the northern port. The entire port was built by the Tusker people after being conquered by the Night Elves and accepting Yufei's orders. Chief Tusker welcomed Yufei into the largest tent in the port, but did not prepare any food. Chief Tusker, who had lived with some Night Elves for a while, knew that the Night Elves were not very interested in food. After calming the excited elves, Yufei stayed in Chief Tusker's tent and quietly waited for the arrival of the magic crystal and the magic core. According to his calculations, it should be less than a day before the 2 ships departing from O'Brien port will arrive at the northern port. Sure enough, on the second day, the magic crystal and the magic core arrived at the northern port. Although it was summer, there was still some thin ice on the far North Sea. Ordinary ships would definitely not be able to sail normally in this situation, but the 2 ships owned by Yufei were different. The magic crystal and the magic core were ships built by the Stanley Chamber of Commerce with all means, and many mages also participated in the shipbuilding. When Yufei asked the Stanley Chamber of Commerce to build the ship, he had already taken into account the fact that there were many floating ice in the far North Sea all year round, and also made special requirements. Therefore, in addition to the enchantment that makes the hull extremely strong and the addition of magic dynamic machinery, the 2 ships also have strong ice-breaking capabilities. In addition to the specially enchanted ice-breaking horns on the bow for cutting, there are also some holes around the hull. Flames can be sprayed out of these holes, and the source of the flames is naturally brought by the magic dynamic machinery. Of course, this ice-breaking method of burning ice consumes a lot of magic crystals. Under normal circumstances, only using the ice-breaking horns and relying on the hull reinforced by magic is enough to travel on the sea covered with thin ice. When the Tusker observer on the lighthouse sent a message that 2 large ships were breaking the ice in the distance, Yufei knew that it must be the magic crystal and the magic core. Walking out of Chief Tusker's tent slowly, Yufei came to the place where the ships were moored in the northern port. At Yufei's earlier request, the place where the ships were moored in the northern port was built relatively large, which was definitely enough for the magic crystal and the magic core to moor, and there were also several berths. Under Yufei's watch, the magic crystal and the magic core broke through the thin ice on the sea surface with the ice-breaking angle of the bow and slowly sailed into the northern port. There were not many crew members on the two ships, and they were all loyal guys in the Stanley Chamber of Commerce. However, Yufei was still worried. He hypnotized all the crew members with his mental power before the two ships set off. So when the two ships arrived at the northern port and saw the Night Elves and the Tusker people who had never seen the main elves before, the crew members did not feel strange. At this time, Yufei put on the black robe again and came to the captains of the magic crystal and the magic core. Under the effect of mental power, the two captains naturally knew who the figure in front of them was, so they both respectfully called the Earl and unloaded the cargo according to Yufei's instructions. Because it was the first voyage, they were afraid of accidents, so the two ships were not fully loaded when they set off, and only half of the cargo was loaded in the cargo hold of each ship. However, even if it was half, the number was extremely large. With the help of the Tusker people, the few crew members were seen moving boxes to the ground of the port. Soon, the boxes on the port were piled up like a mountain. Looking at these boxes, Yufei seemed to see the whole of Eslays. That's right, these boxes are the basis for the Night Elves to conquer Eslays. Although the magic cores and magic crystals transported this time are not particularly large, even less than half of what they got from the Kingdom of Severn, the energy obtained from this channel will increase in the future. By absorbing the energy of the human world, the Night Elves can accelerate the development of the army, and then directly conquer the entire human world and even Eslays. Maybe then, I can find a way to return to Earth. Right? Yufei's eyes were a little dazed. It has been nearly a year since he came to Eslays. He has been developing or commanding battles, and he has not recalled things on Earth for a long time. However, although his body has now become a tree, Yufei still misses the people and things on Earth. Shaking his head, Yufei put aside the sadness that suddenly emerged in his heart and continued to watch the unloaded goods. The boxes unloaded from the ship were filled with a large number of magic cores and magic crystals according to their properties, but most of them were low-level magic cores and not very pure magic crystals. For the Night Elves, it was actually not as cost-effective to convert those high-level magic cores and pure magic crystals into energy as low-level magic cores and impure magic crystals. It costs much less to convert the same unit of energy by purchasing low-level magic cores with impurities than to purchase high-level magic cores and pure magic crystals. Yufei had even decided to exchange the high-level magic cores obtained by the Night Elves from the Warcraft mountains and the Seven Kingdom for low-level magic cores and magic crystals of equal value through the channels of the Stanley Chamber of Commerce, so that more energy could be obtained. It was precisely because low-level magic cores and impure magic crystals were needed that Yufei decided to transport the goods by sea smuggling. The quantity was too large, and even the space ring could not hold so many goods. It didn't take long for all the magic crystals and magic cores transported by the magic crystal and the magic core to be unloaded in the port. Next, the Night Elves and some local elves in the northern port will naturally be responsible for transporting these magic crystals and magic cores to the Wind Whispering Forest with the assistance of the Tusker people, so that Yufei can absorb and convert them into energy by using the Tree of Life built by the Soul Division. However, this is a bit troublesome. Yufei has already prepared to move a differentiated Tree of Life to the northern ice sheet, so that the efficiency of receiving and converting magic crystals and magic cores will be much higher. Unfortunately, the movement speed of the Tree of Life is too slow. I think it will not be able to reach the northern port when the next batch of goods arrives. At this time, the cargo holds of the magic crystal and the magic core were empty. Yufei did not immediately load the enchanted equipment stored in the port warehouse, but let the crew on the two ships rest for a day before continuing to work. Although the loyalty of these crew members is beyond doubt, after being influenced by Yufei's mental power, they are just ordinary human sailors after all. It is impossible for them to load and set sail immediately after a long voyage. It was not until the next day, under Yufei's order, that Chief Tusker opened the warehouse in the northern port and loaded the large amount of enchanted equipment that was transported and stored here in advance. When they came, the magic crystal and magic core had only half of their cargo holds, but since it has been proven that there is no problem with the route, they will naturally be fully loaded when they return. At this time, the magic crystal and magic core have been loaded with thousands of enchanted equipment. Of course, these enchanted equipment are relatively low level equipment in the Hunter's Hall. The equipment of the Night Elves now is one or even several levels higher than the enchanted equipment that Yufei decided to smuggle and sell to the human world in exchange for energy. Also considering the trouble and efficiency of transportation, Yufei also decided to build several hunter halls in the northern icefield. This is much more convenient than the migration of the Tree of Life. A few elves can come and complete it. After loading a large number of enchanted equipment, the magic crystal and magic core set sail again. However, this time, in addition to the original crew members, some night elves also left the northern port with the 2 ships in black robes. The crew members were hypnotized by Yufei, so they naturally did not need to be monitored. Yufei sent some night elves on board, just for the safety of the ship. Although the Stanley Chamber of Commerce arranged guards for both ships, Yufei thought it was better to be cautious. The low-level magic cores and impure magic crystals on each ship were not worth too many gold coins, but it was different when they returned. Thousands of enchanted equipment were very valuable in the human world, even the relatively low-level enchanted equipment. In order to prevent the magic crystal and the magic core from being robbed by some pirates, Yufei decided to arrange some night elves on board as guards. Anyway, ordinary people could not find out the identities of the night elves in such attire, and under Yufei's order, the night elves would not get off the ship, and were only responsible for protecting the safety of the ship. Even in O'Brien Port, it was the same. In this way, the chance of being discovered was almost zero. After watching the 2 ships that could be said to be carrying the future of the Night Elves leave, Yufei turned back to the wind-whispering forest. The magic crystals and magic cores transported here were transported by others, and he, as an emperor, naturally would not worry about these trivial matters. It took 2 or 3 days to deal with the first smuggling operation in the northern port. It only took 3 days for Avril to transform again with the intermediate soul crystal. After returning to the wind-whispering forest, the Elder's altar had already transformed Avril. After Avril was transformed again with the intermediate soul crystal, there was no change in her attributes, but her highest hero level was raised from the original level 4 to level 7. With Yufei's permission, the excited Avril went to the Warcraft mountain range to hunt Warcraft and level up. I'm really sorry for everyone. I stood you up again because of something urgent. Hanchan will open a separate chapter tonight to say some words I want to say and apologize. I'm sorry. Chapter 303, Moon Knight and Enchantress. After carefully checking Avril's attributes after the second transformation, Yufei found that there was no change in attack growth. This is good. Now the heroes transformed by the intermediate soul crystal will not be weaker than those transformed by the upper soul crystal at the same level. After Avril went to level up on her own, Luna started the transformation ceremony second. Luna, the leader of the Huntress, is the third highly intelligent night elf to appear after Avril and Tyrant. Yufei put a transformation ceremony second. 3 days pass quickly in normal times, but waiting is extremely long. Fortunately, it passed after all. After 3 days, Luna also successfully transformed into a hero unit. Moon Knight. Name. Luna specific attributes. Omitted skill description. Moonlight strike. Moon Knight gathers the power of moonlight and throws it to the ground, causing damage to the target area and a short-term stun. The damage value and stun duration increase with the skill level. In the Dark Knight, due to the special environment, the damage effect is 3 times the original. Super Bounce allows Moon Knight's normal attack to bounce to enemies near the target, with each bounce slightly increasing the damage. This effect can bounce back and forth between 2 or more units, and buildings can also participate in the bounce. The number of bounces and the damage increase with the skill level. Moonlight Baptism, passive effect, slightly reduces the life recovery rate and mana recovery rate of enemies in a large surrounding area, and moderately increases the life recovery rate and mana recovery rate of friendly forces in a large surrounding area. Active use can clear the life and mana recovery rate of enemies in a large surrounding area, and greatly increase the life recovery rate and mana recovery rate of friendly forces in a large surrounding area. The skill effect increases with the level. Dark Side of the Moon, after being activated, it enhances the shadow escape talent of Moon Knight and some surrounding night elves. allowing Moon Knight and friendly forces under the effect of the skill to maintain the shadow escape state while moving. The effect is weakened during the day. The skill range increases with the skill level. Ultimate skill, Lunar Eclipse, forms a field of moonlight and uses moonlight to attack a random enemy unit nearby each time, with damage corresponding to the current level of moonlight. The domain is dark, which increases the attributes of the Moon Knight. The skill effect and domain duration increase with the skill level. It is true. As early as when Avril transformed into the Night Sentinel, Euphenie had guessed the hero forms of other soldiers. As for Luna, because of the moonlight skill that existed before, Euphenie guessed that she would transform into the Moon Knight. However, just like Avril's transformation into the Night Sentinel, the skills of the Moon Knight Luna have changed a lot. The Moonlight Strike has changed less, but it has changed from a single skill to a small range group skill, which is still good. As for the special effect of the Night Special Environment, the damage is increased to 3 times. Euphenie understood it after a little thought. The Moonlight Strike is to guide the power of the moon to attack the enemy, and there are 3 moons in the sky of Veslays at night, which should be the reason why the damage is increased to 3 times at night. The super strong ejection is not much different from before, but the description is more detailed. This ejection effect should be the best when there are only 2 enemies. It can be ejected back and forth between 2 people and the damage is getting higher and higher. Moonlight Baptism is a skill that Luna has after she advances to the elite level. The original skill effect is to achieve the passive effect of the current skill after using it. After Luna became a hero unit, this skill was greatly strengthened. The passive effect has an aura that weakens the enemy and enhances the life and mana recovery speed of friendly units. The active effect is even more powerful, which can temporarily prevent the enemy from recovering vitality and mana. In this case, the effect of the enemy's healing magic will be greatly reduced. The skill of the Dark Side of the Moon is actually a normal skill, which surprised Euphenie. The name of this skill is exactly the same as the name of the ultimate move of the Moon Priestess in Dota, but the effect can be said to be weakened. The Dark Side of the Moon skill of the Moon Priestess in Dota ignores the distance and makes all friendly heroes enter the invisible state, and even if the invisible state is broken, it will quickly enter again. Luna's Dark Side of the Moon skill only enhances the shadow escape talent of a small number of friendly units around, and the effect will be weakened a lot during the day. This may be the reason why Luna's Dark Side of the Moon skill is a normal skill instead of a big move. As for the Eclipse domain, it looks not much different from the Moon Knight's ultimate move, the Eclipse, except that it has become a domain effect. From the literal description, it seems that the Eclipse domain is just a group attack skill, but the effect of the domain can be seen from Illidan's demon transformation skill. What's more, the skill description of the Eclipse domain also specifically states that Luna's attributes will be improved within the domain, which is very similar to demon transformation. With a little more association, Euphenie linked the Eclipse domain with the Dark Side of the Moon skill. The Dark Side of the Moon will only play a greater role at night, and battles do not necessarily take place at night. In this case, the artificially created darkness in the Eclipse domain will fully demonstrate the skill effect of the Dark Side of the Moon. Artificially created darkness? Euphenie suddenly thought of something, that is, Moonstone. In the Tree of Life stage, Moonstone was not sold in the Miracle Ancient Tree. Considering that the effect of Moonstone is too abnormal in reality, Euphenie can understand it. But after Euphenia's main body advances to the Ancient Tree, the Miracle Ancient Tree can be used to buy Moonstone. However, unlike the original Moonstone effect, the Moonstone here can only artificially change an area of about 1 square kilometer to night. Of course, if you use enough Moonstones, the range of effect will also increase. Euphenie decided to keep Moonstones in Luna's inventory to match her Dark Side of the Moon skill. After the transformation was completed, the excited Luna bowed to Euphenia's main body, and then, like Avril, worked hard to improve her level. She is now only a level 1 hero, and needs to be improved more than Avril. The third person who used the intermediate soul crystal to transform into a hero was the tree demon, that is, the deer's chief soldier AI Ashisha. Although Euphenie had maliciously speculated whether AI Ashisha would become an old deer, that is, the jungle defender, but as expected, AI Ashisha was transformed into a charmer. Charmer, name, AI Ashisha attributes, omitted. Skill description, Powerful poison. The attack of the enchantress is accompanied by a strong poison. After hitting the enemy, it will cause huge continuous damage and there is a chance that the poisoned enemy's skill release will fail, or the attack will be lost. At the same time, the poisoned enemy will have its movement speed and attack speed greatly reduced. The skill effect increases with the skill level. Charm. Charm an enemy or neutral unit. If the skill is used successfully, it will be directly controlled by the enchantress. If the skill fails, its various attributes will be greatly reduced. The skill success rate is affected by the skill level and the strength of the charm target. Mass Dispel. Consume part of the magic value to dispel the debuff status of friendly troops and the buff status of enemy troops within the skill range. It can cause additional damage to summons and has a chance to interrupt the skill release of enemies within the skill range. The skill effect increases with the skill level. Nature's Help. Summons a large number of elves around to heal friendly units. It can exist at the same time as other healing effects. The skill effect increases with the skill level. Ultimate skill. Advance. Add a magic effect to each normal attack. The damage of this effect depends on the distance between the target and the location of the enchantress at the moment the target is attacked. The farther the distance, the greater the additional damage of this skill. To be honest, there are not many changes to the enchantress. The passive skill of inviolability, which is relatively useless in real combat, has disappeared, and the slow poison and dispel have been strengthened to an almost terrifying level. Two descriptions of strong poison and mass dispel caught Euphenia's attention. There is a chance that the poisoned enemy's skill release fails or the attack is lost. There is a chance to interrupt the skill release of enemies within the skill range. These two effects are nothing in the Warcraft game, because the skills in the game are generally instantaneous. However, in SRAS, mages need a guiding time to release spells and warriors need a guiding time to release combat skills. The effect of the failure to use skills in strong poison and mass dispel can be said to be very abnormal. Among the other three skills, Euphenia is relatively indifferent to the ultimate move, because this skill improves the single strength of the enchantress, and now it is a large army battle. In comparison, in Euphenia's eyes, the effect of the ordinary skill Nature's Assistance is much better than the ultimate move. Nature's Assistance is a powerful healing skill. When combined with Avril's natural transfer skill in the army, the effect is absolutely undeniable. There is also Charm. This skill seems to only work on a single target, but its effect in the real world is not as simple as described. If Ayashisha uses the Charm skill to control the Emperor of the Holy Lion Empire, then both the Heart of Light and the Magic Crystal Core will be available, as long as they want. Of course, the Emperor of the Holy Lion Empire cannot be easily charmed by Ayashisha. Not to mention the problem of skill success rate. The Emperor of the Empire is not so easy to see. However, if some key figures are charmed, it will be of great help to the Night Elves. This control is wholehearted, much stronger than the mental suggestion of Euphenia's clone. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 304 Encounter with Pirates. In the end, Euphenia's positioning of Ayashisha was similar to his positioning of the Dryad as a unit, both of which were specifically used to deal with the mage army. By the way, one thing to add here is that, although it has become a hero unit, Ayashisha still retains the magic immunity of the Dryad as a unit, and its immunity is higher than that of ordinary Dryads. Euphenia felt that, if Ayashisha reached a sufficient level to fight against the mage, it would probably be easier than Maiev with the fog skill. Magic immunity plus 2 skills that can interrupt the release of magic and cause the mage to suffer backlash. Ayashisha can even deal with a mage army by herself. The third person to perform the hero transformation ceremony was the mountain giant Tinno. Euphenia had already guessed what hero Tinno would transform into, but before he could verify his guess, another thing attracted his attention. Just when Tinno was performing the hero transformation ceremony, the magic crystal and magic core, which were loaded with low-level enchanted equipment produced by the Hunter Hall, had an accident. because the previous attention was focused on analyzing Ayashish's skills and letting Tino perform the transformation ceremony. Yufei didn't realize what happened on the magic crystal and the magic core for a while. It took Luna and Ayashisha 6 days to complete the transformation. During these 6 days, the magic crystal and the magic core had sailed out of the far North Sea and arrived at the conventional sea area. After leaving the far North Sea, you can see other ships. Compared with some large chambers of commerce or countries that dare to carry out maritime transportation, the 2 ships built by the Stanley Chamber of Commerce are still a little small. Of course, the magic crystal and the magic core are definitely the top ones in terms of performance, but the fleet composed of the 2 ships is really a little pocket-sized. Generally, the fleets engaged in maritime transportation have more than 10 ships, and the larger fleets even have more than 50 ships. With merchant ships, the profession of pirates naturally came into being. There are not many ships sailing in the far North Sea, but outside the far North Sea, the existence of pirates is very common. When sailing from O'Brien Port to the North Port, the magic crystal and the magic core were lucky not to encounter pirates. But when they were returning with full enchanted equipment, they finally encountered a pirate fleet. The magic crystal and the magic core were only 2 ships, but from the waterline, they were fully loaded, or even overloaded with cargo, which was a good fat sheep for every pirate. In the sea about 5 days away from O'Brien Port, the magic crystal and the magic core were surrounded by more than a dozen ships of different sizes. Yorick, the leader of the anchor pirates, was very happy. Today, he just wanted to take the pirate fleet to the far North Sea for a ride, but he didn't expect to meet a fat sheep. To be honest, he was really just going for a ride. Everyone knows that the far North Sea is difficult to sail, and which fleet would come back here for nothing? Unexpectedly, during the ride, he encountered 2 ships that were obviously loaded with a lot of cargo. Although they didn't come out with the purpose of robbery, how could the pirates let go of the merchant ships when they saw them? Soon, under Yorick's command, the 13 ships of the anchor pirates surrounded the 2 ships. Yorick was still a little confused about the other side's courage to sail in the sea with only 2 ships. However, seeing the extremely deep waterline of the magic crystal and the magic core, Yorick quickly made up his mind and explained this doubt by himself. Perhaps this was originally a small fleet with several ships, but it encountered a shipwreck, leaving only these 2 ships. The waterline that indicated overloading may be that these 2 ships salvaged the cargo or seafarers from other ships, so they were overloaded. Thinking of this, Yorick became excited. This fleet with only 2 ships, weak strength but overloaded with cargo and seafarers, is simply the best gift from God to the anchor pirates. For the pirates, these 2 ships are simply delicacies on the chopping board, and they only need to take a bite. Although there may not be much cargo in these 2 ships, most of them are seafarers rescued from other ships, but for pirates, there is nothing that cannot be exploited. It's good to have more seafarers. Those who can be sailors are strong men. If they are sold as slaves, the price will definitely be high. Moreover, slaves who can participate in sailing are considered skilled and can be sold at a higher price. Soon, Yorick, with gold coins shining in his eyes, ordered the 2 ships to attack. There are no cannons in SLAs. The best long-range attack methods on the ships are only catapults and crossbows with a range of only about 500 meters. There are also mages, but the attack range of low-level mages is not very far without the assistance of the mage tower. This makes the conventional form of naval battles and SLA's boarding battles. Although there are several large ships in Yorick's pirate fleet that are equipped with catapults and crossbows, these 2 merchant ships do not need to use catapults and crossbows or even the several mages that the pirate group has worked hard to recruit. Moreover, in Yorick's eyes, the magic crystal and the magic core were already fat meat in his mouth. If he used catapults and crossbows to attack, whether it was damaging the ship or killing some crew members who could be sold as slaves, it would be his own loss. Therefore, Yorick's order was to launch a boarding battle. However, before Yorick's ships approached the magic crystal and the magic core, something happened on the 2 ships that the pirates thought had no ability to resist. Based on Yorick's experience and careful observation, he did not find the existence of catapults and crossbows on the magic crystal and the magic core, so he let his men launch a boarding battle with confidence. But this time, although his judgment, based on experience, was correct, the development of the matter did not unfold as he imagined. Just when the closest ship of the anchor pirates to the magic crystal and the magic core was still 600 meters away from the two ships, and had not even entered the attack range of the catapult, the pirate ship was incredibly attacked. Dozens of arrows flew from a distance, and the pirates on the ship, who were excitedly preparing to start looting, had no chance to react. These dozens of arrows accurately penetrated the throats of their respective targets. There were actually not many pirates standing on the deck ready to rush onto the merchant ship when the ship approached. This was limited by the size of the ship. After dozens of arrows were baptized, 1/3 of the pirates on the entire pirate ship fell down. It was not until dozens of excited pirates fell down with arrows stuck in their throats and lost their breath that the other pirates took a breath and began to hide in panic. Yorick naturally saw this scene and almost popped his eyes out. There was no cover on the sea, so Yorick, who was still strong, saw it clearly. None of the arrows flying from the two ships surrounded by the anchor pirates were wasted, and each arrow shot and killed one of his men. Oh my god, what kind of arrow is this? The crossbow has this range, but looking at the size of the arrow, it is obviously not a crossbow. Could it be that there are dozens of gold level archers on the two ships? In Yorick's mind, except for archers of gold level and above, no one can shoot arrows so far. This time it's troublesome. Even if his pirate group has a large number of people, it will suffer heavy losses if they are taken in by boarding battle. Yorick was determined to order the use of crossbows. However, before he could give the order, something happened on the magic crystal and the magic core. After another wave of arrow rain, dozens of huge black shadows rose into the air on the magic crystal and the magic core. What the hell is this? Yorick was stunned as he stared at the more than 30 strange birds and a dozen purple giant crows approaching in the sky. Considering the inconvenience of the claw druids, huntresses and other units in the ocean, Euphoria arranged all the horned eagle knights and raptor druids who can transform into storm crows on the magic crystal and the magic core. There were also a few elf dragons just in case, but there was no need to deploy them when facing this pirate group. It was because of the deployment of the hippogriff knights and the raptor druids that Euphoia's attention was attracted. Seeing the situation in front of him, Euphoia, who had only seen and commanded battles on land, suddenly became interested and began to command this naval battle with great interest. Considering the possible long-range attack methods of the pirate group, Euphoia ordered the Night Elves to stop approaching and start attacking at a distance that was just within the attack range of the hippogriff knights and storm crows. Although there were only more than 30 hippogriff knights, they were all converted from archers, and they also had the skills that elite and even elite archers had. About 20 hippogriff knights were converted from lightning archers. Once the scattered shadow shooter was launched, plus the attacks of more than 10 other gale archers on the hippogriff knights, nearly 100 arrows flew towards the largest ship of the anchor pirates. In comparison, the storm crow's attack seemed mediocre. A dozen fast-flying light balls followed the rain of arrows and flew towards the ship that was obviously the flagship. Seeing the arrows and light balls flying on the ship, Yorick was terrified. He didn't expect that these two ships were not the fat sheep he imagined, but turned into big sharks. They even had air units. There was no time to think carefully about the situation of the magic crystal and the magic core. Yorick quickly responded to the incoming attack. With Yorick's shouts, the pirates on the deck quickly entered the cabin, and only some of the stronger pirates stayed on the deck with Yorick. Chapter 305. First hearing of Shadow Island. The pirates who stayed on the deck were all above the silver level. There were not many of them, only a dozen or so, but they were all the best of the anchor pirates. Yorick was confident that he and his best could block the attacks from the knights on the big birds and the purple crows. As for the pirates, who hid in the cabin under Yorick's order, they were naturally guys with insufficient strength. The decks and walls of ordinary ships naturally could not withstand those attacks that were so powerful at first glance, but the ship under his feet was Yorick's own vehicle, the flagship of the anchor pirates. It was similar to the magic crystal and the magic core, and had been reinforced with certain spells. As expected, although this round of attacks by the hippogriff knights and storm crows was not in vain, it did not have the killing effect that they had caused on the other ship last time. except for the arrows shot by more than 10 gusts of wind archers at the Horned Eagle Knights with super shooting skills, which either pierced the walls of the cabin or injured several relatively weak pirates who stayed on the deck. The other attacks did not have much effect, leaving some scars on the ship at most. In Euphena's opinion, the effect of this attack was very poor, but in Yorik's opinion, these enemies were too terrifying. This is a flagship reinforced by magic. It was actually pierced by some arrows. Although other attacks did not have the effect caused by those dozen arrows, they also caused some damage to the ship. Not to mention the few pirates who were unfortunately hit by the super shooting skills. They were injured, but in fact they were injured to the extent of losing their combat effectiveness. Grandpa, what kind of merchant ship is this? There are so many air forces and they are so powerful. Yorik did not know the Horned Eagle Knight and the Storm Crow. Although what the Night Elves did after coming out of the mountains attracted everyone's attention, the pirates paid less attention to the things on the mainland. Although they knew that a new force seemed to have emerged on the mainland and even established an empire, they did not know the details. In the eyes of the pirates, the things on the mainland have nothing to do with them, and there is no need to care about them. The ocean and the land are two different worlds, and the pirates have their own way of survival and living range. It is precisely because of this that Yorik has no impression of the Hippogriff Knight, who is now recognized by people who are a little more informed on the mainland. So, Yorik is in trouble next. Seeing that the largest ship of the pirate group is a tough nut to crack, Eupheny simply gave up attacking the flagship and slowly grinded it to disintegration, and turned to attack other ships of the anchor pirates. The other ships do not have the hull as strong as Yorik's flagship, nor do they have the masters on the flagship. Under the attack of the Hippogriff Knight and the Storm Crow, it is naturally a tragedy. Eupheny chose to attack the pirate ship closest to the magic crystal and the magic core first. The catapults and crossbows on these pirate ships may not cause much damage to the magic reinforced magic crystal and the magic core, but there will definitely be some disadvantages. As for those ships that might cause losses to their smuggling activities, they naturally had to be eliminated beyond their range. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. After a round of arrow rain, under the effect of more than a dozen super powerful shots, the ship targeted by the Night Elves quickly became fragmented. 1/3 of the pirates on this pirate ship had been killed by the Night Elves before, and only 1/3 were left after this attack. Dozens of pirates who survived by chance swam on the sea, shouting for help to other pirate ships not far away. However, Eupheny was not going to let go of these guys who wanted to cut off his wealth, and ordered the Hippogriff Knight and Storm Crow to target the pirates who were rising and falling on the sea and attack. Yorik was naturally terrified when he saw the disintegration of the pirate ship. Just when he was hesitating whether to save the pirates, who fell into the water, the second round of attacks from the Night Elves made him give up. Night Elves, arrows never miss. This sentence is not an exaggeration when dealing with these weak pirates. Dozens of pirates who were struggling to swim on the sea were quickly killed by arrows and light balls in the air. The blood dyed a small area of the sea red, but soon dispersed under the action of the waves. It should attract sharks, Eupheny thought, but soon turned his attention to the pirates. Yorik knew that he had kicked the iron plate this time. He didn't eat the big fat sheep, but broke his teeth. Yorik, who was originally prepared to rush to solve the two ships in anger regardless of the losses, had the idea of running away after seeing the fate of the pirate ship and its crew that was disintegrated by the attack of the Night Elves. Yorik was not a pirate who dragged his feet. As the leader of the pirates, he was naturally the kind of person who acted swiftly. With a flag signal, the remaining 12 ships of the anchor pirates quickly turned around and began to flee when the Night Elves did not attack again. Eupheny sneered in his heart. What do these pirates think of themselves? They can come and go as they please. How can it be so easy? Under Eupheny's order, more than 30 Hippogriff Knights and a dozen Storm Crows actually adjusted their direction and began to chase the 12 fleeing pirate ships. After all, they belonged to the same pirate group. Although the 12 pirate ships were in a state of escape, they also kept a relatively consistent formation and fled in one direction. Yorik put his flagship at the back, which was considered as a rear guard. But he didn't expect that the idea of rear guarding, which he had originally thought of just in case, would actually be implemented. Those big bird knights and purple crows actually chased up Exclamation mark. MD, who is the pirate, and who is the merchant ship? Yorick felt very aggrieved at this time. I didn't expect that air units would have such a great advantage in naval battles. Unlike Yorick's aggrieved mood, Euphony was in a relatively comfortable mood at this time. The role played by the Hippogriff Knights and Stormcrows in the naval battle made him very satisfied with his temporary idea of equipping the magic crystal and magic core with Night Elf guards. Well, but if we keep equipping ships traveling to and from the human world with Night Elves, something will happen sooner or later. The pirates may not know the origins of the Hippogriff Knights and Stormcrows due to insufficient information channels, but other forces on the mainland with maritime forces will definitely recognize them. In this case, the smuggling operation will be in trouble. After thinking carefully, Euphony suddenly ordered the Night Elves, who had already included the ships of the anchor pirates in the attack range, not to launch an attack first. The elite level Hippogriff Knights already have a high level of wisdom. Under Euphony's guidance, a Hippogriff Knight broke away from the large force that was slowing down to maintain the distance from the pirate fleet and accelerated to the top of the last flagship of the anchor pirates. Yorick was also a little confused when he saw this scene, but it was fortunate that the Night Elves behind him did not launch an attack. He did not choose to attack the Hippogriff Knight hovering above his head, but raised his head and looked at the enemy with abnormal behavior. Yorick's reaction made Euphony quite satisfied. It seems that this pirate leader is a smart man, so it will be much easier. The Hippogriff Knight in the air proposed a negotiation request according to Euphony's instructions. Soon, an archer covered in a black robe stood opposite a dozen pirates. A deliberately low voice reached the ears of the pirates. "Captain, my master is very dissatisfied with your behavior. I hope you can give an explanation." Yorick's brain immediately started to work. Master? What master? The master with such a strange and powerful guard must not be an ordinary noble. Explanation? What explanation does the mysterious master want? Or what does he want from me? After thinking for a while, looking at the other Hippogriff Knights and Stormcrows who were keeping a distance in the distance, Yorick pulled out an ugly smile and replied, "Regarding our offense to the adults, I, Yorick, the leader of the anchor pirates, express my deepest apologies. I hope that some treasures in the sea can be forgiven by the adults." As he said that, Yorick waved his hand, and several pirates carried 2 boxes to the deck. When the boxes were opened, they were full of sea treasures such as pearls and corals. At this moment, Yorick felt extremely bitter. What kind of thing was this? He robbed a merchant ship, but was robbed instead. It would be too embarrassing if it got out. However, Euphony's target was not these treasures, so the archer spoke again. "Mr. Yorick, let's be frank. What my master values is not the treasures, but he hopes that your pirate group, which is not very strong, will serve the master." Yorick got angry when he heard this. "Great. You have a big appetite. It's not enough to apologize with treasures. You actually want to eat my anchor pirates in one bite?" Exclamation mark. However, the situation is stronger than people. The Hippogriff Knight and Stormcrow in the distance are always a big stone pressing on Yorick's heart. He can only continue to respond to the archer with an ugly smile. "Sir, you are joking. Our pirate group is a member of Shadow Island. How can we possibly serve your master? Even that master would not be willing to bear the wrath of Shadow Island for conquering a member of Shadow Island, right? Shadow Island will never tolerate traitors on the island. We really cannot accept your kindness." Shadow Island? Euphony became interested. Could it be that the pirates of Eslaser have formed an organization? In this case, the implementation of his plan would be more certain. Euphony was very curious about the Shadow Island mentioned by Yorick. This curiosity soon turned into action. Chapter 306, The Secret of Shadow Island. Seeing that Yorick had no intention of agreeing with the archer's proposal, Euphony lost his patience to continue persuading him. The mental power quickly dominated the body of the archer who was negotiating with Yorick, and a strong mental power entered Yorick's mind through the archer's eyes. Yorick, who was attacked by Euphony's mental power, fell into a state of crazy shivering, and the pirates behind him were naturally shocked to see this situation. It was obviously caused by the hateful guy in the black robe, but the pirates behind Yorick were emotionally agitated, but they did not move for the time being. There may be fools among pirates, but none of them are ignorant of the times. Why didn't Yorick do anything unfavorable to the archer, who came to the ship alone before? Naturally, it was to take into account the other Hippogriff Knights and Stormcrows. Since these pirates are the essence of the anchor pirates, they are naturally not stupid. Not to mention that Yorick is just shivering now. Even if he was killed by the Black Robe Man, the pirates might still react. But now Yorick's life was not in danger, so the elite pirates were prepared to wait and see. They knew that if they killed the enemy on the ship, the big birds flying in the sky would definitely fight to the death with the pirates. Judging from the speed of the big birds chasing them before, they were several times faster than the speed of the ships. I'm afraid that no ship of the anchor pirates could escape the pursuit of the big bird troops. But soon, the pirates breathed a sigh of relief, because their leader recovered from the tremors. Yorick, who had returned to his normal form, said coldly to the archer on the opposite side, "We, the anchor pirates, are a group of pirates who advocate freedom. We will never surrender to others." After a pause, Yorick continued, "These 2 boxes of treasures represent the bottom line of the anchor pirates. If your master accepts this apology, everything will be fine. But if we must surrender to him, then we can only fight to the death." The pirates behind Yorick had no time to think about why their captain suddenly fell into a state of tremors and suddenly recovered. They were all moved to tears by the words, "We are a group of pirates who advocate freedom and we can only fight to the death." Captain Yorick, you are so domineering. This is the temperament of a great pirate. This is why you are the captain of the pirates and we are just your subordinates. You advocate freedom. But we don't. Fight for our lives. That black-robed lord, can we surrender? We are not in the same group as him. Our lives are precious and are not to be fought for. Love to fight, die fast. He shouted these words in his heart, but on the surface, the pirates did not react to Yorick's words. Yorick has been accumulating prestige in the anchor pirates for a long time. Although the pirates were very puzzled and dissatisfied with his tough attitude at the moment, they did not dare to oppose him face to face. They were ready for the black-robed man opposite to be angry and the big bird troops behind to attack, and they also held their weapons tightly and were ready to deal with an enemy first. However, what surprised all the pirates was that the black-robed man hesitated for a moment, nodded, put the 2 boxes of treasures on the back of the big bird that landed on the deck, and left. "Are you kidding us?" Exclamation mark. The pirates were stunned by the magical scene in front of them. Judging from the black-robed man's previous attitude, it was obviously the kind of arrogant and domineering. "If you don't surrender, I will beat you to death. It's very cruel to beat you to death." But now he just left like this under the tough words of his own leader? Looking at the Hippogriff Knight and Stormcrow flying away in the distance, the pirates looked at Yorick, as if they were looking at the Emperor of the Empire. Could it be that the captain's shaking movements just now were to invite the gods to possess him? Otherwise, how could things develop like this? Or was the man in black robes and the master behind him simply a paper dragon? Yorick ignored the admiring eyes of the pirates, turned and walked into his room, and closed the door. Yorick at this time was no longer the original Yorick. Under the influence of Euphena's powerful mental power, although Yorick's strength was not weak, he was still affected. The current anchor pirates can be said to be under Euphena's control. Although Euphena's forced control through mental power is not as stable as Ayash's charm, there are still many benefits. At least, the content about Shadow Island that Euphenia is interested in is found in Yorick's memory. Shadow Island is indeed an island, but it is also the name of an alliance of pirates in the northern and eastern waters of Esles. Shadow Island is a relatively large island. It is also a place where pirates often trade and rest. It is a territory that belongs entirely to the pirate forces. Originally, the pirates were not bound by the organization. They robbed the merchant ships they liked and were responsible for their own profits and losses. However, the existence of pirates is a thorn in the hearts of the chambers of commerce with shipping routes on the mainland. So decades ago, under the leadership of the Candela Business Kingdom Alliance, the forces with shipping routes jointly launched an operation to eliminate pirates. Under the sweep of many large chambers of commerce fleets, the scattered pirates soon encountered a catastrophe. Not to mention looting merchant ships. Even if they stay in their own bases, every pirate group may encounter the disaster of being wiped out at any time. In this case, the Pirate Alliance naturally came into being. some relatively powerful pirate groups gathered in Shadow Island, swore an oath of blood, and established an organization called Shadow Island. After the alliance, the pirates' situation of being bullied and humiliated has improved a lot. Under the organization of Shadow Island, the various pirate groups united to fight against the coalition forces of the Chamber of Commerce, and they were no longer at a disadvantage. After all, the Chamber of Commerce is still mainly engaged in trade, so it is impossible for them to unite and sweep the sea for a long time. Not long after, seeing that they could not completely wipe out the pirate forces, they gave up. However, the Shadow Island organization was retained. The Shadow Island, where the pirates formed an alliance, has also become a holy place for pirates. In the Shadow Island organization, there are three largest pirate groups. They are the War Pirates, led by Hecarim, the Widow Pirates, led by Evelyn, and the Warden Pirates, led by Thresh. The War Pirates are the strongest among the pirate groups under the Shadow Island organization. Their leader Hecarim is said to have been a brave and warlike general in a human kingdom. He was very good at commanding wars and even had the title of Shadow of War. But unfortunately, the bloody plot of being too powerful to be worthy of the title appeared. It was the time when the new and old kings of the kingdom were taking over. In order not to leave hidden dangers for the new king, the old king issued an order to secretly execute Hecarim. Then, after some plots about love, hatred, and vengeance, Hecarim finally survived, fled to the sea with the charge of treason, and became a pirate. With its own strength and strong command ability, Hecarim's war pirates quickly walked at the forefront of pirates. The Widow Pirates are very distinctive, and all the members are women. This is really a special existence on the sea where women are not welcome. The leader, Evelyn, was once the wife of the leader of a large pirate group. However, in the anti-pirate operation before the establishment of Shadow Island, that large pirate group was destroyed. Evelyn escaped, and as a woman, she quickly developed a huge force. However, her pirate group only accepts women, and they must be widows. The resentment of the widows is imaginable, so the Widow Pirates gradually became one of the three major pirate groups in Shadow Island. As for the prison pirates, it is even more bizarre than the Widow Pirates. The bizarre thing is that their captain is actually a dwarf. In fact, from the name Thresh, it can be seen that this leader should not be human. Thresh is a dark iron dwarf. He used to make a living by forging, like other dark iron dwarves in the human world. It is also a bloody plot. Thresh offended a noble and was thrown into prison. However, Thresh not only has the blood of Dark Iron Dwarf, but he is a dwarf of Dark Iron Dwarf and Hill Dwarf. In prison, Thresh, who showed some atavism, broke the prison wall and escaped. He killed the noble by the way, and then fled to the sea like Hecarim. Most of the members of the prison warden pirates are prisoners in the human world. After a period of prisoner life, Thresh seems to be very sympathetic to the prisoners. He often attacks some prisons in the harbor to rescue prisoners and absorb some of them into the group. However, the strength of the prison warden pirates is not that everyone was once a prisoner and a desperate criminal who is not a desperate criminal when he is a pirate. Exclamation mark. The strength of the prison warden pirates lies in that, in addition to most of the members being human prisoners, a small number of members are aliens. These alien races include dwarves, halflings, orcs, and even elves. Compared with ordinary humans, the strength of these alien races is generally much stronger. It is precisely because of this that the prison pirates have become one of the three major pirate groups in Shadow Island. After reading these secrets about Shadow Island in Yorick's mind, Euphony was excited. Isn't this like having a pillow when you want to sleep? Euphony had a vague idea before. In order for his smuggling operation to proceed smoothly, the safety of the smuggling fleet must be guaranteed. However, the Night Elves cannot always serve as the guards of the fleet, and the Night Elves are strong, but they are not invincible. Originally, Euphony only vaguely felt that he should have his own power on the sea, and until the Shadow Island organization, he had a clear idea. Chapter 307 Notice. Due to the number of words, and fearing a waste of everyone's Kidian coins, Hang Chen has put some of his own words in the related section of the work, and book friends who support Hang Chen can take a look. Chapter 308, Mountain Giant Hero to Know. In Esraz, the main part of the war took place on land. Yufei was extremely confident in the strength of the Night Elves in terms of ground forces. In addition to the lack of frontal charge arms like the human cavalry regiment, the Night Elves had an overwhelming advantage in ground combat. Although there were no charge arms, the existence of mountain giants and claw druids made the Night Elves not afraid of direct confrontation. The advantage in ranged arms made the Night Elves very terrifying in killing the enemy even without the melee harvesting troops such as the cavalry regiment. In terms of air force, in addition to the rumored large number of Griffin Knights that appeared during the Holy Empire, SRAS only had the legendary Dragon Knights and other air combat units. However, now the Dragon Knight has become a legend, and the Griffin Knight seems to have disappeared. SRAS has not made any achievements in air forces. But the Night Elves are different. Whether it is a horned hippogriff knight or the Stormcrow transformed by the Raptor Druid, they are all air units, and they are large scale. Although the Fairy Dragon is mainly aimed at mages, it is also an air force. Not to mention that after Yufei's main body is upgraded to the level of the Eternal Tree, the Night Elves can train the ultimate force, the Chimera. When the Chimera troops are formed, this powerful force that can be used as a bomber will definitely become the nightmare of all enemies of the Night Elves. No matter which world it is in, mastering air supremacy is almost a lock on the victory of the war, especially in a world like SLA's that does not have ultra long range strike means such as missiles. When the Chimera troops come out, the Night Elves can push all the way and conquer SLA's without any scruples. It is precisely because the advantages of the Night Elves army and air forces are obvious that Yufei has always ignored the navy. The Night Elves, or the four main war races in Warcraft, have no naval forces. However, in reality, it is very important to have a navy. Apart from anything else, at least with a strong enough navy, the Night Elves smuggling fleet will no longer encounter pirates, right? Now, Yorick and his anchor pirates have become part of the Night Elves, but Yufei's appetite is more than that. When he discovered the existence of pirates and negotiated with Yorick, Yufei had the idea of integrating the pirate forces to become the overlord of the SLA's Sea, and thereby guaranteeing the interests of the Night Elves and creating benefits. Now, after learning about the existence of the pirate alliance of Shadow Island, Yufei suddenly realized that he was really the protagonist. He didn't have to bother to conquer those unruly pirates one by one and integrate them together. The pirates already had a loose but unified organization. In this case, all Yufei had to do was to take control of Shadow Island. At that time, the pirate forces that truly had the same master and were integrated together would definitely bring great benefits to the Night Elves. Not to mention guaranteeing the smuggling and trafficking activities of the Night Elves. Just asking the pirates to hand over the magic crystal ore and magic cores they looted would be a considerable profit. But for the time being, Yufei put this idea behind him. The Night Elves don't have many troops that can fight in the sea. Except for the 3 units of the Hippogriff Knight, Stormcrow and Elf Dragon, other Night Elves can't play their strength in naval battles. Now Yufei's main goal is to accelerate the strengthening of the Night Elves' strength by smuggling magic crystals and magic cores and selling enchanted equipment. There is also the transformation ceremony of several other soldiers. The integration of pirate forces has to come later. As for shipping, there is no need to worry about anything now that Yorick's anchor pirates are escorting. However, Yufei is still preparing to strengthen Yorick's strength and let him climb to a higher position in the Shadow Island so that he can control the Shadow Island in the future. But this is also a matter for the future. It was the first time to smuggle enchanted equipment, and Yufei was more concerned about the benefits it could bring. Under the secret escort of the anchor pirates, in fact, it was to drive away some pirates far in advance. It took 5 days for the magic crystal and the magic core to finally return to the port of O'Brien smoothly. This also means that, although the benefits of Yufei's first smuggling operation have not yet been determined, it has been declared a success. After that, as long as they follow the experience of this time, the Night Elves can continuously obtain energy in the human world. The trade blockade of the 3 empires and other human countries against the Night Empire can be said to be in name only. On the 3rd day of these 5 days, the 4th mountain giant Tino who performed the hero transformation ceremony completed the transformation and became the 8th hero unit of the Night Elves. Mountain giant, name, Tino specific attributes, omitted skill description, landslide, condensed rocks bombard an area, causing damage and stun effects. The damage and stun duration increase with the skill level. Mountain assault, rush to a target location at a faster speed, engulf the enemy units encountered on the way, and bring them to the target location. After arriving at the target location, the engulfed enemies will receive a second stage of damage, and the enemies at the target location will receive a certain amount of damage and deceleration effect. The skill damage and deceleration effect increase with the skill level. Rugged appearance. The body of the mountain giant is made of extremely solid rock, with strong defense and magic resistance. It can greatly reduce the damage caused by physical and magic attacks, and enemies attacking the mountain giant will receive rebound damage. Rebound damage is real damage, and cannot be reduced. The skill effect increases with the level. Earth tremor. The mountain giant uses the power of the earth to make enemies in a large range enter a slowdown state with a high probability, and a certain probability of entering a dizzy state. The skill adds a small amount of damage, which will cause great damage to buildings. The duration of negative status effects and skill damage increase with skill level. Ultimate skill, grow, greatly increase the size, health, armor and attack power of the mountain giant, but the attack speed is reduced. Passively increase the damage of all skills and a part of the movement speed. The increase rate increases with the skill level. There is also a hero called Mountain Giant in Dota. As expected by Yuffie, Tino, who was transformed into a hero unit, really put on the template of the Mountain Giant in Dota. Landslide is one of Tino's two main output skills, and it also has a powerful control effect. It is a skill with a clear purpose. The original signature skill of the Mountain Giant in Dota, Throw, was censored, presumably because this skill is not so easy to use in the real world. In the game, those soldiers die, so don't worry about it, but in reality, there are living night elves around. How can you just throw them out and cause damage? It was the newly emerged skill of Mountain Assault that made Yuffie's eyes light up. This skill seems to be transformed from the charged skill of the Centaur Mammoth, but the huge size of the Mountain Giant will make the effect of this skill even more powerful. Not to mention Tino, who has grown up after learning the ultimate skill, after reaching the 6th level of the hero. At that time, it will really be the same as the name of this skill. The grown-up Tino will crush all enemies in his assault path like a rushing mountain. Rugged appearance is much stronger than the original rugged appearance skill in the game. This may be due to the addition of the two passive skills of the mountain giant, hardened skin and resistant skin, which have been possessed by the mountain giant, forming a new rugged appearance skill that increases the toughness of the character. The highlight of this skill is the irreducible real damage of the rebound. Tino was already tough enough, but now both physical and magic attacks will be weakened to a freezing point, and the attacker will also receive irresistible rebound damage, which is really to embark. Moreover, Tyrande is equipped with the Crown of Thorns, which has a level 3 Thorn aura skill. With the passive skill of Tino, the rebound damage is particularly considerable. What makes Yuffie feel that Tino is now competent as the first tank of the Night Elves is that the taunt skill possessed by the mountain giant has also been retained by Tino. Now, even if the enemy finds that attacking Tino is not worth the loss, they will have to hurt the enemy 100 times and hurt themselves 1000 times under the effect of taunt. The earth is shaking. There is nothing to say about this, it is just the earthquake of the Orc Prophet. Although the damage has been weakened, the positioning of the large-scale group control skill cannot be escaped. In addition to the group control effects of group deceleration and partial stun, the effect of the skill Earth Tremor in destroying buildings is also valued by Yuffie. There is nothing much to say about the ultimate skill growth, it is just a passive skill. But compared to the growth skills in the game, that only increase size and attack power, the growth skills that Tino now has are all-round improvements. Size, vitality, armor, attack power. This is to make Tino a very aggressive meat shield. Perhaps because the throwing skill was removed, the effect of increasing the damage of the throwing skill attached to the growth has become a more perverted increase in the damage of all skills. The addition of movement speed is also a good thing for Tino. Now Tino can become the first choice for the Night Elves to charge, and Illidan has to stand aside. After analyzing the extremely high health and armor attributes after Tino was transformed into a hero unit, as well as those unrecognizable skills, Yufei has a clear positioning for Tino as a hero. Chapter 309 Sky Druids and Huge Profits. After Tino was successfully transformed into a hero unit, the only Night Elf soldiers left were the Raptor Druid, the Claw Druid and the Elven Dragon. Yufei had a pretty good idea of the hero templates these three soldiers would be transformed into. After encountering Orcs pirate group, the magic crystal and the magic core took more than 5 days to return to Port O'Brien. Just as the two smuggling ships were unloading, the Raptor Druid soldiers were also transformed into a hero unit after the mountain giant Tino. Sky Druid. Name. Ferio specific attributes. Omitted. Skill description. Sprouting. Use the power of nature to form a forest in the target area, to block the enemy's attack, and restrict the enemy's actions. The size and duration of the forest increase with the skill level. Wind control magic. Sky Druid can use the power of nature to control the wind. After using it, it can make friendly units gain the benefit of traveling with the wind in a large range, increase the movement speed, and make enemy units gain the debuff of traveling against the wind, reducing the movement speed. The skill effect and duration increase with the skill level. Flying magic. Sky Druids are the darlings of the sky. They can use the power of nature to temporarily give some friendly troops the ability to fly. The number and duration of the blessed flying state increase with the skill level. Transformation into Stormlord. Sky Druids transform into the King of Storm Crows with increased attack power and the attack type converted to Chaos, which improves the effect of wind control magic and flying magic. Sprouting and Nature's Wrath skills cannot be used in Stormlord form. The increase in attack power increases with the skill level. Ultimate skill. Nature's Wrath. Sky Druid's only offensive skill, representing the wrath of nature. Use the energy of natural destruction to attack a large area, and then there will be 4 attack methods: rain of fire, hail, lightning and ground cracking. The skill power increases with the skill level. The Raptor Druid is originally in a supporting position in the battle sequence of the Night Elves. Their chief soldier Furion also tends to be a supporting role after being transformed into a hero unit. As mentioned in his ultimate skill, Sky Druid only has one offensive skill, Wrath of Nature. Others, whether it is sprouting, wind controlling magic, flying magic, or transformation into Stormlord, do not have the ability to cause direct damage. In other words, this Sky Druid Ferio is a commander type hero, and his own combat ability is not very strong. But compared with the strength of combat power, Yufei cares more about Ferio's auxiliary ability. Among the 4 ordinary skills, except that transformation into Stormlord is transformed from the original transformation into Stormcrow skill, which is a skill that enhances Ferio's own ability, the other 3 are very good war skills. Let's talk about sprouting first. This skill of changing terrain is nothing in the game, but it is a very powerful ability in reality. One of the founders of S-Laser's universal spells, an Earth-based Great Mage, once used the combination of Earth Wall and transformation into stone to change the terrain, and successfully won a war. Although the sprouting skill is not like the Earth Wall plus transformation into stone that can directly form a simple wall, its blocking effect on the enemy is no worse. The war machine that the human nation is most proud of is the cavalry regiment with a strict formation. But just think about it, if countless trees suddenly grow in front of the cavalry regiment that is charging in a majestic manner, or even in the queue, the fate of the cavalry must be extremely tragic. From this perspective, the skill of sprouting still has a certain killing effect. The cavalry in the charge cannot stop whenever they want, and if a big tree suddenly appears in front of them, and they can't stop, on Earth, an airplane hitting a sparrow may cause a crash. The cavalry will crash under the tree at high speed, and they will be disabled if they don't die. The range of the wind control magic is very large. If it is in a dense formation, even the first level wind control magic is enough to bless all the units that the Night Elves have now. However, it is understandable that the range of the wind control magic is so large. After all, there is still room for detours on the battlefield. If the skill range is insufficient, it may only have one of the buff effect on friendly forces and the debuff effect on enemy forces. Only when the skill range is large enough can it speed up the enemy while slowing down the enemy. Yufei is very fond of the flying magic. Although the Night Elves have many air units, the role of the flying magic skill cannot be ignored. The limiting factor of this skill is only the number of units affected, and has nothing to do with quality. In other words, even mountain giants can fly into the air on a large scale under the effect of flying magic. As for flying into the air, although the power of the earth cannot be condensed to form boulders in the air, the killing effect that the mountain giants can cause when they land from the air should be greater. Of course, the role of flying magic is more than just this. Surprise attack, cutting back, decapitation. Many tactics will become extremely simple with the help of flying magic. There is nothing much to say about transforming into a Stormlord. It just allows Ferio to fly and improve some of his own strength. The only thing that makes Ufei feel that this skill is still useful is that it improves the effects of wind control magic and flying magic skills after transformation. However, in the form of Stormlord, germination and nature's anger cannot be used. Whether to transform or not naturally depends on the specific situation during the battle. Finally, it is the only attack skill of Sky Druid. Perhaps it is because Sky Druid has only one attack skill, and the skill description shows that the effect of this skill is very powerful. Look at it, rain of fire, hail, lightning, and ground cracking. This skill should be called Doomsday Judgment instead of Nature's Wrath. The group killing effect of this skill is probably not far from Tyran's Falling Stars. For Sky Druid, Ufei positioned it as a complete war hero. Almost all of his skills serve large troops, and the only lethal skill is also a large-scale killing effect similar to the Forbidden Spell, which has a huge impact on a war. Ufei originally speculated that the transformation of the Raptor Druid soldiers was based on the Dota hero Prophet. Unexpectedly, although the two skills of Germination and Nature's Wrath appeared, Furion's title was Sky Druid instead of Prophet. However, judging from the two skills of wind control magic and flying magic, the title of Sky Druid is well deserved. At the same time that Ferio's transformation was successful, at O'Brien Port, the magic crystal and magic core, which were fully loaded with enchanted equipment, had already entered the warehouse of the Stanley Chamber of Commerce. As early as half a day's journey from O'Brien Port, Yorick and his anchor pirates, who were guarding the two ships from a distance, left according to Ufei's instructions, and there were no accidents in the following half a day. The magic crystal and magic core returned to O'Brien Port without any damage. This also means that Ufei's smuggling plan is feasible. Now we have to see what price these thousands of enchanted equipment can be sold for. This is the first time to do such a thing, and the quantity is not particularly large. Ufei plans not to deal with it through the channels of the Candela Business Kingdom Alliance. With the channels of Stanley merchants themselves, about 1,000 pieces of enchanted equipment can still be barely consumed. Ufei did not care about the specific business operations. This aspect of things still needs to be handled by professionals. However, 3 days later, Ufei, who could not hold back, still asked about the results of the first batch of enchanted equipment. At this time, only about 200 pieces of the thousands of enchanted equipment were slowly sold. They were all sold to other countries through secret channels after the Stanley Chamber of Commerce contacted the previous noble partners. It seems that it took 3 days to process 200 pieces, which is a bit slow, but this is because the Stanley Chamber of Commerce has hardly done any business in enchanted equipment before, and those old customers are more hesitant. After the value of these enchanted equipment is confirmed, Ufei believes that the remaining ones will be sold quickly. As for the value of the enchanted equipment produced by the Hunter Hall, Ufei is still very confident. He has also traveled in the human world for a long time with his clone, so he has naturally seen the enchanted equipment in the human world. To be honest, some low-level enchanted equipment that some ruined nobles regard as heirlooms is actually about the same as the lowest level enchanted equipment that can be exchanged in the Hunter Hall. The gold coins brought by the sale of 200 pieces of enchanted equipment can already buy a large number of magic cores and magic crystals. Ufei roughly estimated in his mind that the energy that can be exchanged for these 200 low-level enchanted equipment can already be used to exchange for 2,000 pieces of equipment of the same level in the Hunter Hall. This is 10 times the profit. At this moment, Ufei seemed to see the Night Elves like a vampire, greedily absorbing the nutrients of the human world and strengthening themselves. The profit from this small-scale smuggling operation with only 2 ships alone can allow the Night Elves to fully arm 2,000 naked Night Elves. A set of military equipment has more than one piece. If smuggling is formed on a large scale in the future, the development speed of the Night Elves will reach a terrifying speed. Yufei was awed in his heart. This smuggling operation must be maintained, and safety must be guaranteed. Although there are many magic crystal mines in the territory occupied by the Night Elves that are being mined by the underground dwarves who agree to cooperate, the Night Elves' demand for energy is endless, and all channels that can obtain a large amount of energy must be maintained. I'm really sorry everyone. I had something to do during the day today, and I just had a writer's card. I can see that time is running out. Chapter 3 has to be repeated and revised again. There are only 3 days left in August. It's a pity to lose full attendance now. Han Chen promises that this is the last time to do this. Chapter 310 Earth Druid and Fairy Dragon. During these 3 days, the transformation ceremony of the 10th hero unit of the Night Elves was also completed. The penultimate one to hold the transformation ceremony was Cerebral, the chief of the Claw Druids. The transformed Cerebral, as Yufei guessed, was fitted with the template of the Dota hero druid. However, Cerebral's title just corresponds to the title of Fairy and Sky Druid, and is called the Druid of the Fighter. Earth Druid. Name. Cerebral specific attributes. Omitted. Skill description. Summon Wolf Spirit. Summon a Wolf Spirit partner to fight for the Earth Druid. The Wolf Spirit has the skills of Elf Speed, Windblade and Swiftness Aura. Swiftness Aura can passively increase the attack speed of friendly forces within the range. The Wolf Spirit's health, mana, attack power and other attributes and the strength of its own skills increase with the increase of the skill level of Summon Wolf Spirit. Summon Leopard Spirit. Summon a Leopard Spirit partner to fight for the Earth Druid. The Leopard Spirit has the skills of Lightning Dance, Chain Lightning and Haste Aura. The Haste Aura can passively increase the movement speed of friendly forces within the range. The health, mana, attack damage and other attributes of the Leopard Spirit and the strength of its own skills increase with the increase of the Summon Wolf Spirit skill level. Summon Bear Spirit. Summons a Bear Spirit companion to fight for the Earth Druid. The Bear Spirit has the skills Earth Ward, Earth Shake, War Aura and Guardian Aura. War Aura can be used actively to increase the attack damage of nearby friendly forces, and Guardian Aura can passively increase the armor and magic resistance of friendly forces within the range. The health, mana, attack damage and other attributes of the Bear Spirit and the strength of its own skills increase with the increase of the Summon Wolf Spirit skill level. Collaboration. Improve the tacit understanding between the Earth Druid and his soul companion. Passively improve the various attributes of the Earth Druid's soul companion, and expand the range of the soul companion's aura effect. The attribute improvement effect and the expansion of the aura range increase with the increase of the skill level. Ultimate skill. Transfiguration. Earth Druids are the darlings of the Earth. The Earth embraces everything, so Earth Druids can transform into any creature that does not exceed the upper limit of their abilities, note, including dragons, and possess the abilities of transformed creatures. As for Cerebral, Yufei couldn't tell whether he was more inclined to legionary combat or personal strength. If he was more inclined to legionary combat, a transfiguration would allow Cerebral to not fear any enemy in a duel, not to mention that the combat power of the 3 soul companions must be strong. When fighting alone, Cerebral alone could be considered a small combat team. However, it would be unreasonable to say that Cerebral was more inclined to improve his personal strength. Apart from other things, the Swiftness Aura, the Haste Aura, and the Guardian Aura possessed by his 3 soul companions could bring great benefits to friendly forces in war. The Elven Speed of the Wolf Spirit should be considered a life-saving skill, and the Wind Wave Blade as a path-clearing attack skill. The huge wind blades that fly out in the fan shape must be very good for cutting straw. However, Yufei still favored the Swiftness Aura that could increase the attack speed of friendly forces. I think the speed of the elves is to allow the Wolf Spirit to better maintain the effect time of the Swiftness Aura on friendly forces. Similarly, the skills possessed by the Leopard Spirit are similar to those of the Wolf Spirit. Lightning Dance is to maintain the effect of the Swiftness Aura, and Chain Lightning is a powerful group killing skill. And this Swiftness Aura combined with the wind control magic of the Sky Druid Furion can make the Night Elf troops march at a speed that ordinary people can't imagine. The bear spirit is the strongest of the 3 soul companions of the earth druid. Not only does it surpass the wolf spirit and the leopard spirit in various basic attributes, it also has one more skill than the first 2 soul companions. The earth's protection can not only be used to register, but also can turn the bare face, which is already thick-skinned and thick-fleshed, into a meat shield that is even meatier than the average mountain giant. Earthquake is a group attack skill. There is nothing much to say, but War Awe and Guardian Aura are typical group gain skills. Although War Awe can only temporarily increase the attack power of the surrounding friendly forces, the effect is also very impressive. The effect of the Guardian Aura is even more amazing. The additional armor and magic resistance can not only ensure the safety of relatively fragile archers, tree spirits and other fragile soldiers, but also turn the mountain giants and other soldiers who are originally meat shields into steel plates. Cooperative combat is derived from the druid's cooperative skill, but because the earth druid has 3 soul companions, the effect of the cooperative combat skill has also been greatly improved. In addition to improving the various attributes of the 3 soul companions and making them more powerful, it can also increase the range of the 3 soul companions' aura skills. 3 auras and a war awe make the earth druid's effect on the strength of the army no less than that of the sky druid. Of course, it should be noted that the aura only works when the soul companion is alive. If the soul companion is killed, the aura will not have the additional effect before the earth druid summons it again. Unfortunately, the cooldown time of the 3 summoning soul companions is relatively long. Transfiguration is a skill that the claw druid possesses after the ancient tree of knowledge mutates. According to the different levels of the claw druid, the common, elite and elite levels, the claw druid can transform into the wind wolf, thunder panther and earth bear respectively. In the case of Cerebia, who has been transformed into a hero unit, transfiguration has been greatly enhanced, worthy of the title of the ultimate skill. Cerebia's transfiguration skill is no longer limited to the 3 transformation effects. Within the scope of the ability, it can be transformed into any Warcraft. The special note including dragons made you feel comfortable. Even dragons can be transformed. This is the ability of the druids in the novels he read on Earth. After Cerebia, the Earth Druid, this hero with unclear bias, 3 days later, the Elf Dragon's chief of soldiers Isra also successfully transformed into a heroic fairy dragon. Fairy dragon, name, Isra specific attributes, omitted skill description, illusionary sphere, release a magic sphere that flies in a straight line, causing damage to enemy units around the nearby sphere during the movement. The fairy dragon can teleport to the location of the magic orb at any time. The damage effect, orb diameter and flight speed increase with skill level. Phase shift. The fairy dragon changes the dimension it is in for a short period of time, temporarily not taking any damage. The phase shift state can be terminated at any time. The duration of the phase shift state increases with skill level. Space lock. The fairy dragon completely locks the target unit and takes it into another dimension. The unit cannot use skills and equipment, and the damage it receives from the fairy dragon is increased by 100%, and the damage it receives from other units is reduced to half. The duration of the skill increases with skill level. Crescent mark. The fairy dragon sprinkles her mysterious powder on the target area, causing a small amount of damage, a short-term magic ban effect, and causes the magic backlash state to all units with magic. The skill damage, duration of the magic ban effect and the intensity of the backlash increase with skill level. Ultimate skill, Dream Coil. The fairy dragon's powerful illusion shrouds the battlefield for a certain period of time. The ever-changing magic coils created instantly damage and stun enemy units in the nearby range. Enemy units that try to break free from the entanglement and move a certain distance away from the dream origin will be damaged again and stunned. Enemies within the dream entanglement range cannot release skills. The skill effect increases with the skill level. Yufei originally thought that the fairy dragon would also be a hero that tends to increase the strength of the army. However, from the perspective of skills, the fairy dragon Azura is a hero with strong single target strength. In addition to being an attack skill, the illusion orb also has an effect similar to Maev's flicker, but the distance is farther. The only disadvantage is that the target of the illusion orb is relatively large, and it cannot change its position silently like flicker. Phase shift is naturally a magical skill. transform yourself to another dimension, and not be hurt. Isn't this invincibility? Although the duration of this invincibility is relatively short, and you cannot attack enemies in the original dimension during the invincible state, the skill cools down quickly. The biggest factor that makes Euphenie judge Ysera as a combat hero is her third skill, Space Lock. This Space Lock can only affect one target, which is equivalent to pulling the target to another dimension to fight the fairy dragon alone. However, under the effect of Spatial Lock, the enemy cannot use skills and equipment, but will suffer double damage from Ysera. Being in another dimension and unable to escape, they can only let the fairy dragon do whatever it wants. And although the target of Spatial Lock only receives 50% of the damage from other enemies, it is not immune to damage. Euphenie has already imagined that, if he encounters the mythical old monster hidden in Slays, he must let Ysera take action. Ysera first locks the opponent with Spatial Lock, and then a large number of Night Elves attack it. Under the condition that it cannot dodge or resist with skills, the mythical old monster will also have to suffer. There is nothing much to say about the Scar of the New Moon, which is a skill for magicians. Although the damage is not considerable, the magic ban effect and magic backlash effect are the nightmares of magicians. Ysera's ultimate skill Dream Coil is another domain type skill. Domain type skills are extremely powerful, which is also proved in Dream Coil. The large range, high damage and 2-stage damage stun effect are extremely sharp. Moreover, the range of the Dream Entanglement is equivalent to establishing a magic forbidden area. This will make the firepower mage regiments of human countries even inferior to ordinary soldiers. From this aspect, although the ability of the fairy dragon is more reflected in combat, its impact on the war is not small. Everyone, read the next chapter tomorrow morning. This is the last time Hanchan uses this dirty method. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 311 Preparations for Developing Maritime Power. So far, the 7 soldier heads of the Night Elves who can now be transformed into hero units have all been successfully transformed into heroes. As long as they spend some time hunting monsters and reach level 7, they will have epic strength. Considering the dazzling array of equipment in the Miracle Ancient Tree and the hero exclusive sets corresponding to the 7 new heroes that have appeared in the Hunter Hall, the Night Elves will have 11 epic level powerhouses. Among them, heroes like Sky Druid who are completely inclined to war may be slightly weaker in themselves, but with the increase in equipment, they can also be regarded as the best among the epic level. As for heroes, like Illidan and Elf Dragon who tend to have individual strength, Euphenie even thinks that, after using various powerful skills, they can already meet the mythical powerhouses that he has not seen since he came to Slays. The transformation ceremony of the soldier heads has come to an end. It is a long way to go for the overall transformation with the superior soul crystal, so Euphenie temporarily put aside this matter. The Dark Knight Empire is still developing steadily. Although the migration tide has passed, there are still many elves who joined the Dark Knight Empire. Although it is unknown why the Elf King Court, which was freed from the shackles of the Heart of the Sky, did not announce a strong return, Euphenie was still happy to see the growing national strength of the Dark Knight Empire. Euphenie had no idea that his seemingly easy capture of the Heart of the Sky almost killed half of the more than 40 elders of the Elf King Court who provided energy to the Heart of the Sky. The other half had just exhausted all their energy. Although they did not need to recuperate for several years or even more than 10 years like those more unfortunate elf elders, they still needed to recuperate for a period of time. It was precisely because of this that, although the Elf King Alan Abner hated Euphenia's clone in his heart, Queen Isabella of the Elf King Court still held back and did not explode. Moreover, she knew in her heart that, even if all the elders of the Elf King Court recovered, they might not be able to do anything to the Night Elves. However, the words of the most poisonous woman were not empty words. Queen Isabella had a poisonous plan in her heart, but she was still hesitating whether to implement it. Although he claimed to be the father god, Yufei was not really a god, and of course he would not know what kind of unfavorable thoughts were turning in Queen Isabella's mind far away in the elf forest. Now he has shifted his focus elsewhere. The Dark Knight Empire is managed by Tyrant and a group of local elves, so there will not be any big trouble. The Dark Knight Empire has just been established, and the Night Elves have only been initially recognized by the forces of S-Laser, so it is not easy to start a war. That is to say, for Yufei, there is no fun to find in the Dark Knight Empire for the time being. On the other hand, in O'Brienport, whether it is selling enchanted equipment or purchasing magic cores and magic crystals, it is all handled by the Stanley Chamber of Commerce controlled by Yufei, and Yufei is too lazy to take care of those trivial matters. In this way, Yufei has nothing to do in O'Brien territory. But the bored Yufei finally found something to do. He has not forgotten Yorick, the pirate leader he conquered before, and Yufei is also very interested in the pirate organization Shadow Island. So, on a dark and windy night, the founding emperor of the Dark Knight Empire, the agent of the World Tree, and the leader of the elves, Alan Abner, secretly left the palace and came to a coast in the north. Yufei did not choose to let Yorick's pirate group pick him up at the northern port, because not every ship can sail in the far North Sea. Take Yorick's anchor pirates for example. Only the flagship Anchor, which has been reinforced by magic, can barely sail in the far North Sea. 2 days later, the pirates of the Anchor pirates were surprised to find that there was a mysterious black-robed man in their team. The leader Yorick announced that this black-robed man would become the deputy leader of the Anchor pirates, and everyone except himself would obey the orders of the black-robed man. The pirates naturally did not know the identity of the black-robed man, and they were also dissatisfied with the sudden appearance of the deputy leader. However, after several deliberately provocative captains were severely punished, and even a captain who behaved a little too much was thrown into the sea to feed sharks, the pirates all lived in peace. Because of the convincing strength, the pirates gradually recognized the black-robed man who called himself Gangplank. In addition to the Captain Yorick, this deputy Captain Gangplank can also freely command all the pirates. The pirates naturally don't know that even their Captain Yorick has to obey the orders of the deputy Captain Gangplank who suddenly appeared. Because this Gangplank is the role played by Yufei, Yorick's master, Yufei feels that if you want to truly control the pirate alliance of Shadow Island, you must participate in it as a pirate. When you completely control the pirates in the northern and eastern waters of Esraz, the Night Elves will become the maritime overlord of Esraz before the land. Although Esraz is a whole continent, the advantage of controlling the sea is not as great as on Earth. But at least the trade routes of the Night Elves can be guaranteed, and even Shadow Island can bring a steady stream of energy to the Night Elves. Besides, according to experience on Earth, the larger resource points are often distributed in the sea. Yufei was going to see if there were any rich magic crystal mines on the islands outside the S-Lays continent. If there were, it would surely speed up the pace of the Night Elves to unify S-Lays. It was precisely because of the above factors, and the fact that the Night Elves were now entering a short period of stability, that Yufei was so bored that he used his clone to go to the sea that he had never been to before. Speaking of which, Yufei had never been to the seaside before on Earth. His knowledge of the sea was only what he saw on TV or in pictures. He had thought that when he really saw the sea, he might be shocked by the magnificent scene. However, when he really saw the sea in S-Lays, he did not feel as excited as he had imagined. It was not the first time that Yufei had seen the sea of S-Lays by sailing on the sea with his clone. Before, whether it was when he conquered the northern ice field, or when the magic crystal and the magic core were sailing in the sea, Yufei had seen the sea through his eyes within the range of perception. Perhaps because of the god's perspective, Yufei actually felt that the sea did not have any magnificent momentum. This also made Yufei still feel nothing when he looked at the sea from the perspective of an elf, and even felt that sailing was a bit boring. However, the boring time passed quickly. After only 2 days of sailing, Yorick returned to the Anchor Island, the home of the Anchor pirates. In fact, Yufei wanted to go directly to Shadow Island to take a look, but the current strength of the Anchor pirates is not strong enough, and even if they go to Shadow Island, they have no say. Yufei finally decided to make some preparations before trying to enter Shadow Island. Although Anchor Island is just an island, it has a large area, and there are even mountains and forests, which makes Yufei feel relieved. Under Yufei's instructions, Yorick announced that the mountains and forests in the center of Anchor Island were designated as forbidden areas, and pirates were not allowed to enter and exit at will. Then, the deputy leader of the Anchor Pirates, Lord Plank, entered the forest. When leaving the wind-whispering forest, Yufei brought some elves with him. Although elves can move, they do not belong to the category of ordinary creatures. They are spirits, so they can be stored in space rings. After entering the forest of Iron Anchor Island, Yufei released all the elves in the space ring. Then, these elves began to build ancient trees according to Yufei's instructions. Of course, without Yufei's soul, the tree of life cannot be built. The energy and wood resources of the Night Elves are universal in a strange way, anywhere where the Night Elves exist. Therefore, these elves brought to Iron Anchor Island by Yufei do not need to collect energy and wood to directly build ancient trees. Similarly, the population limit, provided by the moon well, is also universal for the entire Night Elf tribe. Only a few moon wells were built to fill the magic bottle, and no more moon wells were built on Iron Anchor Island. As the construction of the ancient war trees, miracle trees and wind trees was completed, the footprints of the Night Elves began to appear on Iron Anchor Island. In order to facilitate equipment, Yufei even built a hunter's hole on Iron Anchor Island to equip the newly trained Night Elf soldiers on Iron Anchor Island with military equipment. The Anchor Pirates is a pirate group with many ships but few pirates, so Yufei directly put some of the trained archers in black robes and incorporated them into the pirate team. Of course, under the joint command of Yorick and Yufei, the pirates on some ships were merged into the same ship, and the empty ships were all occupied by Night Elf archers and claw druids as melee units in boarding battles. These ships were also under the command of Deputy Captain Gangplank under Yorick's order. Well, this is the only way for the time being. After all, the Anchor Pirates is just a small and medium-sized pirate group with 12 ships of different sizes. The next task is to get more ships. Naval battles are different from battles on land. Even if you have a lot of people, you can't defeat the enemy without enough ships. After equipping the ships assigned to him with enough Night Elves, Captain Yorick began to prepare to go out and find work under the suggestion of Deputy Captain Gangplank. This job is certainly not a serious job, and it is not even the pirates' main job of robbing merchant ships. Instead, it is to attack other pirate groups and carry out thief-on-thief operations at Yufei's suggestion. Chapter 312, Settling in Shadow Island. In order to take over Shadow Island, the strength of the Anchor Pirates must be strengthened. In a short period of time, Yorick's ability alone is not enough to develop the Anchor Pirates to the strength of the three major pirate groups in Shadow Island. If you want to control Shadow Island, the Night Elves have to contribute. Among the Night Elves, only the archer troops and air units such as the Hippogriff Knights and Raptor Druids can play a relatively large role in naval battles. Therefore, in the sub-base established on Anchor Island, only these types of troops are trained in large quantities. Because of the sufficient energy, in just a few days, the 5 ships under the command of the Deputy Commander Gank forged by Yufei were equipped with enough Night Elves. However, the buildings for training troops such as the War Ancient Tree on Anchor Island are still training troops continuously. In this way, problems arise. The Anchor Pirates have limited ships. Even if the original pirates are concentrated on the remaining 7 ships, there are only 5 ships left to carry the Night Elves. The current situation is that there are more crews than ships, the opposite of ordinary pirate groups. Ahem. The so-called way of heaven is to take away the surplus and make up for the deficiency. Since other pirate groups have more ships than manpower, they can complement each other. After learning from Yorick that the general pirate groups are in the same situation as the original Anchor Pirates, with saturated ships and insufficient personnel, Yufei made the decision to rob the pirates. The sea area, where the Anchor Pirates are rampant, is relatively remote and close to the far North Sea. It is precisely because of this that the Anchor Pirates, which is not a big pirate group, can run rampant in this sea area. And outside this area near the far North Sea, there will be many more merchant ships coming and going, and naturally there will be more pirates. Yorick is a local snake, so he naturally knows the nest of nearby pirate groups. With the support of the Night Elves, Yorick, who is full of confidence, directly led the 12 ships of the anchor pirates to pounce on the camp of a pirate group. This pirate group, which Yorick set as the first target, is even weaker than the original anchor pirates, with only 10 pirate ships. Previously, the anchor pirates were beaten to a pulp by only 30 or 40 Night Elf air units. Now with 5 Night Elves, this small pirate group naturally had no power to resist. About half a magic hour later, 20 pirate ships of different sizes sailed out of the pirate group's camp. 2 ships of this pirate group were destroyed by the powerful attacks of the Night Elves in the battle, and at the same time, as the chicken to kill the chicken to scare the monkeys, the anchor pirates got the remaining 8 ships intact. In addition to contributing 8 ships, Yorick also absorbed some pirates from this small pirate group that was destroyed by the anchor pirates. After these pirates were disrupted and integrated, the pirates under Yorick just occupied the position of 10 ships. In other words, there were 5 empty ships for the Night Elves to control. The next few days were almost a replica of the treatment of that small pirate group. 4 pirate groups were swallowed up or eliminated by Yorick. Although there are many pirate groups larger than the anchor pirates among these 4 pirate groups, the anchor pirates swallowed these 4 pirate groups almost without any damage under the help of the Night Elves. The anchor pirates now have a total of 72 ships. 25 of them are controlled by human pirates, and the original old crew members of the anchor pirates have been dispersed to these 25 ships as managers of various sizes. As for the remaining 47 ships, they were all assigned to Ufei by Yorick. In a few days, the pirates and the anchor pirates also noticed something wrong. After all, no leader would let the deputy leader have more power than himself. However, after seeing that the ships led by Deputy Captain Gangplank were always the key to the anchor pirates' victory over the enemy, the pirates gradually came to an understanding. In response to the occasional respect and actions of Captain Yorick to Deputy Captain Gangplank, the pirates, who are all smart people, also understood it. In the current anchor pirates, the real person in charge is probably this Deputy Captain Gangplank. But the pirates didn't understand why Vice Captain Gangplank, who had such a huge power, let Yorick be the leader of the pirate group. The strong are respected among pirates, just like the 5 pirate groups conquered by the anchor pirates. Most of the pirates chose to surrender to the anchor pirates that defeated them or destroyed them. This shows that the pirates are more willing to work under the strong. Ufei himself also considered letting Gangplank be the leader of the anchor pirates. But when he thought that the Elf King's clone would definitely not be able to stay in the ocean for a long time, Ufei finally gave up the idea of being the emperor of the land and then the emperor of the sea. If Ufei's plan and the actions of the Night Elves were exposed, the pressure faced by the anchor pirates would be much greater. Apart from anything else, among the 3 major pirate groups in Shadow Island, perhaps only Thresh's prison pirates would have no opinion on aliens. The speed of acquiring ships was very fast, and Ufei gritted his teeth and built many more war ancient trees and other military training buildings, and the training speed of the Night Elves was not slow. After another day of rest and recuperation, after equipping the idle ships with enough elves, the anchor pirates, under Ufei's command, marched towards the Shadow Island. More than 70 ships, this is already considered a large pirate group, and naturally qualified to go to Shadow Island. In addition to being the name of the pirate joint organization in the northern and eastern waters of Slays, Shadow Island is also the name of an island. This island is considered a landmark of the Shadow Island organization, and every recognized large pirate group has a base on Shadow Island. Now, after a short and rapid expansion of strength, the anchor pirates also have the qualifications to settle in Shadow Island. According to the regulations of the Shadow Island organization, mutual annexation between pirate groups is allowed, but large-scale massacres of hostile pirates are not allowed, because this will deplete the vitality of the pirate camp. When a pirate group has developed or merged 50 pirate ships and more than 2,000 pirates, it is eligible to set up a base on Shadow Island and join the Shadow Island Council. The current anchor pirates have naturally reached this standard. After entering the waters near Shadow Island, Yorick anchored most of the ships on the outer islands according to the rules of Shadow Island, and only brought 3 ships into the port of the main island of Shadow Island. Ufei finally decided to push Yorick to the front. Gangplank's identity is only used temporarily. If he doesn't show up often after joining the Shadow Island Council, something will definitely go wrong. Anyway, Yorick is completely under his control, so let him be the representative of the Night Elves in Shadow Island. Although other pirates don't know Yorick's identity as a representative, the Shadow Island organization has existed for decades, and various mechanisms have gradually improved. The scale of the anchor pirates has reached the standard for joining the Shadow Island Council, so there are no unexpected situations, and it has successfully become one of the core pirate groups of the Shadow Island organization. Yufei let Yorick handle all the trivial matters such as setting up a base on Shadow Island and visiting other pirate groups stationed on Shadow Island. The pirates left on Shadow Island were all human pirates, and Yufei did not leave Night Elves stationed. What he valued was not to settle in Shadow Island, but to become the master of Shadow Island. However, it is not a simple matter to become the master of Shadow Island. In addition to being strong enough, you have to go through a certain procedure. This procedure is the Pirate King selection event held every 10 years. This event is for all pirate groups in the northern and eastern waters of SYNOPSIS. After a series of various assessments and competitions, a new Pirate King will be born. This Pirate King will become the Speaker of the Shadow Island Council. For example, the War Pirates, the Widow Pirates and the Warden Pirates were the winners of the Pirate King selection event 30 years ago, 20 years ago, and 10 years ago respectively. Their leaders are now the first, second, and third speakers of the Shadow Island Council, respectively, and control most of the power of the Shadow Island organization. It should be stated here that pirates who have previously won the title of Pirate King are naturally not allowed to participate in the new Pirate King selection event. Otherwise, there will be no new pirate group to come forward. Yufei's short-term goal for the Anchor Pirates is to win the title of Pirate King in this round of the Pirate King selection event. The criteria for the Pirate King selection are relatively complicated. Although the final candidate will be determined in an uncertain competitive manner, the previous record of the pirates participating in the event will also be included in the selection criteria. And the record of the pirates is naturally the result of robbery. The latest round, that is, the fourth round of the Pirate King selection event, is only 2 months away. In these 2 months, Yufei plans to rely on the Night Elves on dozens of pirate ships to make the Anchor Pirates famous. There are many pirate groups with more than 50 pirate ships. The Anchor Pirates are only new in the Shadow Island Council and must do something shocking. Robbing merchant ships is the main business of pirates, and naturally they cannot let it go. After absorbing members of several conquered pirate groups, the strength of the human pirates and the Anchor Pirates has also greatly increased. This group of pirates alone is enough to plunder some sea caravans that they dared not touch before. However, to do something that will be recognized and even respected by the entire Shadow Island organization, it is far from enough to just plunder merchant ships. Sending Yorick to lead the human pirates in the pirate group to rob merchant ships first to increase merit, Yufei began to think about what kind of things should be done to make the Anchor Pirates famous and have a greater say in the Shadow Island organization. Chapter 313 Earl's Harbor. If you want to gain the recognition of pirates, it obviously takes a long time to accumulate by just relying on ordinary activities such as robbery. However, the Pirate King selection event is just around the corner, and the Anchor Pirates have just joined the Shadow Island Council and have no more time to accumulate their own reputation. In this case, extraordinary things must be done. Thinking, Yufei found a map of the northern waters of SYNOPSIS and began to observe it carefully. After various considerations, he finally decided what to do to make the Anchor Pirates famous. Yufei summoned Yorick, who was robbing merchant ships everywhere, to accumulate reputation among pirates, and told him his plan. Yorick, who learned of the plan, was stunned when he heard Yufei's plan. However, Yufei was his master at this time, and the power of the Anchor Pirates became very powerful with the addition of the Night Elves, so Yorick expressed his approval of Yufei's plan. Next, the more than 80 pirate ships of the Anchor Pirates gathered on a deserted island. The Anchor Pirates only have 72 ships, but although the Night Elf troops have not been dispatched in the past 2 days, other human pirates have also captured some ships, making the pirate group's strength even greater. The newly captured ships are naturally equipped with newly trained Night Elf troops. The ancient trees on the Anchor Island have been training Night Elf soldiers continuously. At least in the short term, the Anchor pirates only need to consider the problem of insufficient ships, and do not have to worry about insufficient personnel. Speaking of which, the pirate group with more than 80 pirate ships is already a first-tier pirate group in the Shadow Island organization. There are only 3 pirate groups with more than 100 ships, such as the War Pirates. It's a pity that the Anchor pirates do not have the strength to match their reputation, so they gathered here to prepare for a big thing. When the Anchor pirates' 30 pirate ships equipped with human pirates and more than 50 pirate ships full of Night Elves were assembled, Eupheny finally announced the goal of this operation. Eupheny's plan is to gather all the forces of the Anchor pirates to attack the port of Ears in the coastal power kingdom of Thebes. The kingdom of Thebes is a kingdom with very strong maritime power. Although Thebes is only of medium strength among the kingdoms on the continent of Esraz, in terms of the navy, the development of the kingdom of Thebes can be said to be not far behind the 3 major empires. Of course, after all, it is just a kingdom. Compared with the Canaan Empire, which also focuses on naval power, the kingdom of Thebes is still relatively weak. However, the Canaan Empire is in the south of Esraz, while the kingdom of Thebes is in the north of Esraz, which is actually incomparable. Therefore, the kingdom of Thebes is the strongest force in the northern waters of Esraz. For example, although the Holy Lion Empire also has some territories facing the sea in the north, it is only a small area like Porto Berlin, and it has not developed much navy in the north, which makes the kingdom of Thebes stand out. The regular navy is naturally on the opposite side of pirates. When pirates rob merchant ships, they hate encountering the navy the most, especially the navy of the kingdom of Thebes. Because generally when pirates are discovered by the navy of human countries when robbing merchant ships, they will definitely be attacked. The overall strength of the pirates is not much inferior to that of the human navy, but they are all organized in pirate groups, and are relatively scattered. Therefore, they are often at a disadvantage when encountering the navy of human countries. As the country with the strongest maritime power in the northern waters of Eslas, the kingdom of Thebes naturally has many old grudges with the pirates. Apart from anything else, just because the kingdom of Thebes was one of the initiators and main forces of the pirate cleanup campaign decades ago, it is enough to make the pirates of the entire Shadow Island organization hate it. If the Anchor pirates can successfully attack the kingdom of Thebes, it will definitely greatly improve its reputation among pirates. If they really capture a port in the kingdom of Thebes, even if they only plunder and cannot occupy it, it will definitely make all pirates, including the 3 major pirate groups, look at the Anchor pirates with new eyes. This port that Eupheny chose is not the largest port in the kingdom of Thebes, but it is also a relatively large port. Eupheny chose this port because of its geographical location and the resources it produces. Let's talk about the geographical location first. This port is located at a corner protruding from the Eslas continental shelf. It is far away from other ports in the kingdom of Thebes, and is in a relatively isolated position. If the Anchor pirates attack here, they don't have to worry about being quickly surrounded by the kingdom of Thebes. As for the resources produced in the port of Ears, they are actually the important reason why Eupheny chose to attack here. From the location on the continent, the port of Ears is relatively close to the Monster Mountain range that runs through the north and south of the continent. The Monster Mountain range extends to the north of the continent and stops not far south of the port of Ears. Therefore, in this area, the production of magic cores is very rich, and there are many magic crystal mines excavated by humans in the mountains. However, due to the complex terrain around it, it costs a lot to transport the magic cores and magic crystal mines by land, which is extremely inconvenient. The emergence of the port of Ears is actually to solve the problem of resource transportation in this area. Although only a small part of this area that produces a large number of magic cores and magic crystal mines belongs to the territory of the kingdom of Thebes, it happens to be located near the sea, so the kingdom of Thebes established the port of Ears here. In addition to the magic crystal ore and magic cores mined in their own countries being transported from the seaport, most of the other countries with profitable output in this area also chose to transport through the seaport. Although the kingdom of Thebes will collect some taxes, these taxes are still worthwhile compared to the cost of land transportation. What Yufei is looking at is naturally the magic crystal ore and magic cores that are often piled up in the seaport. Although it is impossible to occupy the seaport for a long time, a large number of magic cores and magic crystal ore are transported out of this port every day, and even if Yufei robs it once, he can get a lot of energy. Of course, such a lucrative looting target cannot be left untargeted by pirates. When the seaport was first established 100 years ago, there were countless pirate groups waiting on the route outside the port to take advantage of the situation. However, under the escort and full-scale attack of the Thebes navy, the pirates, who were still a mess at the time, ended up in a bleak end. It was precisely because of the enmity here that the Thebes kingdom participated in the operation to eliminate pirates later. Because magic crystals and magic cores are of little use to pirates, they can only be sold, and it is difficult to find buyers for these two things in large quantities. Therefore, the pirates rarely moved around Earl's Port because the profits were not proportional to the risks. However, the hatred for Earl's Port and the kingdom of Thebes is rooted in the hearts of most pirates. If the Anchor pirates can capture Earl's Port, in addition to the energy gains, they will definitely be respected by most pirates. Even Yufei felt that, if the Thebes Kingdom Navy stationed in Earl's Port was completely destroyed, the winner of the Pirate King selection event would even be locked on the Anchor pirates. Of course, all this is still imagination. What needs to be done now is to implement the plan to attack Earl's Port. After hearing Yufei's plan to attack Earl's Port, the human pirates were in an uproar. As old pirates, they naturally knew the situation in Earl's Port. While they admired Yufei's boldness, they also felt a little absurd. In the current Anchor pirates, the Captain Yorick actually controls 30 pirate ships and corresponding pirates. Deputy Captain Gangplank only joined later, but he led more than 50 pirate ships and a large number of powerful mysterious black pirates. Any pirate who is a little smart can find out who is the real boss of the Anchor pirates. Of course, Yorick and Gangplank chose not to make it clear, and those smart pirates would not show up. But since Yufei, the deputy Captain Gangplank, announced this plan, it proves that Captain Yorick would naturally have no objection. However, there are still some pirates who think that the strength of the Anchor pirates is not enough to do such a thing and raised objections. These pirates are guys who joined later, and few have seen the strength of the Night Elves covered in black clothes. Regarding the situation in the Anchor pirates, where the deputy captain has more say than the captain, they have their own views. That is, the captain and the deputy captain are in conflict. In order to gain a higher status and greater benefits in the Anchor pirates, these self-righteous pirates chose to join Yorick and opposed Yufei's proposal. However, Yufei was very impatient with these sesame-sized things. After Yorick announced that the human pirates only needed to help out in this operation, and the real main force was the part of the pirates led by Vice Captain Gangplank, those pirates who jumped like clowns were sunk to the bottom of the sea to feed the fish. After that, Yufei assembled all the ships and personnel of the Anchor pirates, and led the fleet to the direction of Earl's Port. After receiving the bloody warning, and knowing that they did not need to die, the human pirates naturally obeyed the order. In a sea area half a day's journey away from Earl's Port, the fleet of the Anchor pirates stopped. Although the strength of the Anchor pirates has increased a lot after the joining of the Night Elves, it is inevitable that a lot of unnecessary losses will be caused by directly attacking a seaport where a fleet is stationed. In order to avoid these losses, some strategies are naturally needed. After instructing Yorick, the fleet of the Anchor pirates was divided into several teams and began to implement Yufei's not brilliant, but very practical plan. Chapter 314, Pursuit or Lure. After discussing the feasibility of the plan with Yorick, Yufei began to implement the plan to attack the port of Ears. The first step of the plan still requires the efforts of human pirates. Considering that the newly joined pirates do not recognize the pirate group enough and may not be able to implement the plan perfectly, Yorick personally went out according to Yufei's instructions. Captain Mandel is the supreme commander of a warship belonging to the 7th Fleet of the Kingdom of Thebes. On this day, as usual, he and 2 other warships escorted a fleet of the Chamber of Commerce to a seaport in the east. Half lying on the recliner in the captain's room, Captain Mandel gently shook the glass in his hand and then drank the wine in the glass. Such a life is really comfortable. Closing his eyes and savoring the taste of the wine, Captain Mandel sighed in his heart. The 7th Fleet is a fleet of the Kingdom of Theb stationed in the Port of Ears, responsible for guarding the security of the Port of Ears and escorting some sea caravans without armed ships for a fee. Because the pirates had been defeated in this sea area for more than 100 years, and the benefits of Earl's Port were not as great as those of other prosperous ports for pirates, so the pressure on the 7th Fleet was very small. After tasting the wine, Captain Mandel walked out of the captain's room and came to the deck. Looking at the other 2 warships escorting the caravan, Captain Mandel felt unhappy. Really, it's just a merchant ship transporting some low-level magic cores and low-quality magic crystals. Why send 3 warships to escort? There is no pirate activity in this area, and no pirates will confront the regular navy of the Kingdom of Thebes because of these materials that are of little use to them. In fact, only 1 warship of Mandel can escort it. After taking another look at this small caravan, Captain Mandel came to a conclusion in his heart. It's no wonder that Captain Mandel thought so. The 7th Fleet is paid to escort merchant ships, and half of the remuneration paid by the merchant fleet will be allocated to the warships carrying out the mission. The same remuneration, 3 ships and 1 ship can certainly get different, so Captain Mandel complained that the superiors of the fleet did not let him have a ship to perform the escort mission. However, Captain Mandel soon stopped complaining that there were too many warships escorting the merchant caravan, and instead felt that the superiors of the fleet should send more warships to perform the escort mission. Because, in Captain Mandel's sight, more than a dozen ships appeared in the distance. When these ships were far away, Captain Mandel didn't care, thinking that they were other merchant ships or something. But when the dozen ships gradually approached Captain Mandel's fleet, and he could see the skull pirate flags that were used in various worlds hanging on those ships, Captain Mandel panicked. What's going on? Exclamation mark. How could pirates appear in this sea area? Even Captain Mandel, who was very proud of his identity as a navy of the kingdom, was cold at this time. Although they were called a regular navy, the strength of these 3 warships was indeed stronger than that of ordinary pirates, and they could barely fight 1 against 2 or even 1 against 3. However, the pirates who appeared now had 14 ships, 11 more than them, with a gap of nearly 5 times. They didn't even communicate with each other, and the 3 warships chose to escape at the same time. As for the merchant ships they escorted, they were too slow to take them, so they could only hope for the best. However, although the 3 warships chose to escape, the pirate ships did not give up the pursuit. 2 of the 14 pirate ships were divided to manage or plunder those merchant ships, while the other pirate ships were chasing the 3 warships. Captain Mandel, who looked back and saw this scene, couldn't help cursing. Are these pirates crazy? They actually came to chase the regular navy of the kingdom. Why are they chasing us instead of robbing the merchant ships we abandoned? Although they felt aggrieved, both Captain Mandel and the captains of the other 2 warships knew that they could never beat the pursuing enemies with only 3 warships, so they chose to continue to run away. However, seeing that the pirate ships were chasing them, Captain Mandel showed a sneer on his face and silently returned to the captain's room from the deck. As the temporary commander of the 3 warships escorting the caravan this time, Captain Mandel was issued a magic communication device as usual. If the pirates did not choose to pursue, Captain Mandel was not going to use this communication device to notify the friendly forces in the port to come to the rescue. Because the pirates have always been vigorous and resolute, by the time the reinforcement arrived, the caravan had been looted, and the pirates would have disappeared without a trace. However, since these ignorant pirates chose to pursue, they must pay a price. Captain Mandel, who returned to the captain's room, activated the magic communication device and informed the superiors of the 7th Fleet in Earl's Port of what had just happened and the current situation that 12 pirate ships were chasing them. This magic communication device is only a one-way communication, and Captain Mandel did not receive a response from the port. However, he was very confident that the 7th Fleet, which had not been provoked by pirates for a long time, would definitely have fierce countermeasures. At that time, looking at the pirate ship still following behind him, Captain Mandel laughed sinisterly. The pirate ship following the 3 fleeing warships did not know Captain Mandel's actions and had been following the 3 warships at a leisurely pace. After a long time, Captain Mandel also found something wrong. What exactly do these pirates want to do? When the warship speeds up, they also speed up, and when the warship slows down, they also slow down. They just hang there, not close or far away, and they don't give up, even if they don't speed up to attack. Don't these pirates know that Earl's Harbor is not very far from here? But soon, Captain Mandel put this question behind his mind, because in his heart these crazy pirates have been sentenced to death. The reinforcement of the fleet have arrived. Looking at the 8 warships coming from a distance, the tension on Captain Mandel's face disappeared immediately. The regular navy is much stronger than the ordinary pirates. The 8 warships coming to help plus the 3 on his side can easily destroy the 12 pirate ships that have been chasing them. However, according to his boss's character, he should have sent out 20 warships at once to deal with these pirates with overwhelming strength, so as to warn other pirates, right? Why only 8 warships were sent? Captain Mandel was a little confused. However, thinking that the existing warships were enough to eliminate the pursuing pirates, Captain Mandel did not think more and turned the bow to meet the pursuing pirates. While the pirates have not yet discovered the fleet's reinforcement due to the problem of sight, he must first entangle these bold pirates. Otherwise, when they see the 8 warships, they will definitely run away. In this case, won't they be able to avenge being chased so far? Captain Mandel thought so in his heart. Very cooperative, those pirate ships actually started to fight with Captain Mandel and his men. Although the scale was 3 to 12, the slingshots and crossbows flew together, and the arrows and flags danced together. For a while, they fought vividly. Captain Mandel was still a little nervous at the beginning of the battle. After all, the number of the opponent was temporarily 4 times his own. Unexpectedly, after the battle started, Captain Mandel discovered that these pirates who were brave enough to pursue the regular navy were not very strong. Her 12 pirate ships only slightly suppressed our 3 warships. When the 8 friendly warships behind caught up, it would only take a few minutes to defeat you. Although he was temporarily at a disadvantage, Captain Mandel felt very comfortable in his heart, as if he had seen the scene when the pirates on the opposite side were destroyed. However, the more he fought, the more Captain Mandel felt something was wrong. When he fought with the 12 pirate ships for a quarter of magic, and the 3 warships were already scarred, Captain Mandel realized what was wrong. Where are our reinforcement? Exclamation mark. Those 8 warships were obviously not far from here. Why haven't they joined the battlefield after we fought for so long? Captain Mandel, who was full of doubts and uneasiness, temporarily handed over the task of commanding the battle to the first mate and hurried to the stern to observe the situation of the reinforcement. This observation, the scene that Captain Mandel saw, made him collapse. The 8 Navy warships that were originally thought to be the saviors, now only 2 were left, and these 2 also looked like they were about to sink. As for the other 6, you can tell from the 6 whirlpools on the sea that were gradually disappearing that they had already sunk. The culprits of all this were the 10 ships that appeared here at some point and were all painted black. The last scene that caught Captain Mandel's eyes was the situation where the remaining 2 reinforcement warships turned around and fled, but were directly shot and exploded by the rain of arrows pouring out from the black ships with huge energy. Then, he fainted and knew nothing. Captain Mandel was lucky. He did not suffer the humiliation of being captured by pirates while he was awake after fainting, because he had his eyes on these 3 warships. Ufeni chose to capture these 3 warships that had lost the courage to resist. The 12 pirate ships were all human pirates from the Anchor Pirates, and they did the seemingly stupid things before according to Ufeni's plan. After seeing that the Thebes Kingdom's regular navy, which they considered to be powerful, had no power to resist the attack of those mysterious black pirates, the unruly pirates obeyed all of Ufeni's orders. After successfully destroying 8 warships in Earl's Harbor and capturing 3, the human pirates followed Ufeni's orders and sent several pirate ships to transport the previously obtained supplies back to Iron Anchor Island. The other human pirates followed the 10 dark ships and headed towards Earl's Harbor. Chapter 315, Becoming Famous in One Battle. Although he had been captured by the Anchor Pirates, Captain Mandel, who was still in a coma, did not know that their experience was not an exception. While they encountered the pirates, the other 2 warships that were also carrying out the task of escorting merchant ships also encountered the same situation as Captain Mandel. There was a team with 3 escort warships traveling with Captain Mantle. Like Captain Mantle, they first encountered more than a dozen pirate ships and chose to escape. After that, their experience was exactly the same as Captain Mantle. When the reinforcement arrived, they found that the enemy's strength was so strong. In the end, their fate was naturally to be destroyed. The other fleet, because of the 5 warships, chose to protect the merchant ships they were guarding and entangled with the pirates of the Anchor Pirates. The pirates were naturally happy to see this situation and entered a state of mutual entanglement in a very harmonious manner. But when the reinforcement from Earl's Port arrived, the originally hidden Night Elf ships showed their fangs and destroyed the 7 warships that came to support them together with the original 5. In 3 battlefields, the Anchor Pirates destroyed a total of 34 warships of the Thebes Kingdom's 7th Fleet stationed in Earl's Harbor. The entire 7th Fleet only had 60 warships, but now there are less than half of them left. At this time, even with the convenience of defense, Earl's Harbor may not be able to withstand the attack of the Anchor Pirates. With a smile on his face, Euphony walked into the cabin calmly and handed over the command of the next battle to Yorick, the nominal leader of the Anchor Pirates. After all, Yorick has always been the leader of the Anchor Pirates. Because of his identity, Euphony Plank, the alias, could not stay in the pirate group forever, and in the end, Yorick was still the leader of the Anchor Pirates. And Yorick still needs to participate in the Pirate King selection event, so this kind of reputation raising behavior will naturally be handed over to Yorick. Soon, under the leadership of Yorick, the assembled Anchor Pirates came to the outside of Earl's Harbor. With Yorick's shout of all forces attack, more than 50 pitch black ships, which were the main force of the battle, sailed to the Port of Ears. Facing the powerful Night Elves, the Port of Ears, which had only 26 warships left, had no power to resist. Although there were coastal defense catapults and coastal defense crossbows, these war machines could not reach the terrifying range of the Night Elf archers, even if they were installed on land. Under the super shooting skills of the Wind Archers, the war machines that shot stones and crossbows into the sea were silenced one after another. After that, with twice the number of ships and stronger crews, the Port of Ears was quickly captured by the Anchor Pirates. After the capture of the Port of Ears, Euphony handed over all matters to Yorick and the human pirates. It was not easy for the Night Elves to appear on the shore. It was okay at sea, on different ships, with the cover of costumes. The identity of the Night Elves was difficult to be discovered. If it was on land, more careful people would definitely find the difference between the mysterious black pirates under the deputy leader Gangplank and ordinary people. In order to prevent the identity of the Night Elves from being exposed, Euphony let the human pirates do everything, whether it was loading magic cores and magic crystals, or destroying the buildings in Earl's Port. The pirates were very happy to do these things that could vent their hatred and desire for destruction. At this time, the pirates of the Anchor Pirates had completely believed in the strength of the force they belonged to. The Anchor Pirates who captured Earl's Port will definitely have a very promising future in the Shadow Island organization. The pirates did their best to follow Euphony's instructions. After capturing Earl's Port, Euphony did not stay for long. After taking away the ships anchored in the port, looting the magic cores and magic crystals loaded in the port and the cabins of those merchant ships, and destroying most of the buildings in Earl's Port, the Anchor Pirates quickly evacuated Earl's Port. A whole day later, the fleet of the Kingdom of Thebes arrived here to support Earl's Port after hearing the news. But what the Anchor Pirates left them was an empty port and the remains of the buildings that were still burning with flames. For a while, all the navy was furious. However, they were furious and had no way to deal with the Anchor Pirates. The Anchor Pirates had evacuated Earl's Harbor a day ago, and now no one knew where they went. In fact, many people knew the location of Shadow Island, but no force dared to attack it. Now the Kingdom of Thebes had no choice but to swallow its anger and silently take this loss. They didn't even know which pirate group had captured Earl's Harbor. If the 3 major pirate groups were dispatched, the Kingdom of Thebes would definitely get the news in advance, so it could only be the new pirate group that did it. The commander of the reinforcement fleet closed his eyes silently. The pirate group that did such a big thing would definitely not remain unknown in the future. As long as they dare to show up, they will wait to bear the wrath of the Kingdom of Thebes. Yufei naturally didn't know that the Anchor pirates were on the mind of the Kingdom of Thebes, but he could also guess how angry the Kingdom of Thebes would be if a major port was captured by pirates. However, Yufei didn't care about these. What could Anchor do? It is just a kingdom with relatively strong maritime power. If the Night Elves really want to destroy it, it will be too easy. Now Yufei cares about how much benefit he can get from the action of conquering Earl's Port. First of all, the material benefits. From Earl's Port, Yufei obtained a total of magic cores and magic crystals that can be converted into 700,000 energy. These energies can be used by the ancient trees on Anchor Island for a period of time. In addition, the Anchor pirates also obtained 18 standard warships of the Kingdom of Thebes. Compared with the ships that the Anchor pirates originally owned, which were uneven in size and quality, these warships were not as good as the ships transformed by magic, but they were also warships with good performance. 8 of the 18 warships were assigned to Yorick by Yufei. After the Battle of Earl's Port, the Anchor pirates will surely become famous quickly, and the strength of Yorick, the leader, will naturally be improved. The remaining 10 warships are left to the Night Elves who are still being trained. Compared with the 3 major pirate groups that are deeply rooted, the strength of the Anchor pirates is still slightly insufficient. Perhaps through the review of the One Piece selection event, the position of the 4th speaker should be obtained. But if you want to truly control the Shadow Island organization, Yorick still has to take the position of the 1st speaker. In this case, the strength of the Anchor pirates must surpass the 3 major old pirate groups, and the continued participation of the Night Elves is necessary. After leaving Earl's Port, the Anchor pirates did not choose to return to the Shadow Island, but returned to their old nest, Anchor Island. The looted magic cores and magic crystals must be converted into energy through the Tree of Life. Yufei has to find a way to transport these materials to the northern port. Fortunately, Anchor Island is not far from the far North Sea. Under Yufei's order, human pirates were not allowed to participate. 10 warships obtained from Earl's Port were driven into the far North Sea by some Night Elves and transported the obtained magic cores and magic crystals to the northern port. Although the pirates who returned to Anchor Island did not know how much reaction the Anchor pirates' capture of Earl's Harbor would cause from the outside world, they all had a rough estimate in their hearts, and they were all speculating on how high the status of the Anchor pirates would be in the future. At this time, the Shadow Island organization and even some forces with maritime power in the northern waters did act as the pirates' guest. Not to mention the Kingdom of Thebes. An important seaport was burned to the ground by pirates, and the rescue fleet did not even touch the shadow of the enemy, which was a great loss of face. The angry Kingdom of Thebes declared that the mysterious pirate group must pay the price. Although other human forces felt a little gloating about the misfortune of the Thebes kingdom, which had always been more domineering in the northern waters, they also felt some threats. In addition, they were on the opposite side of the pirate forces, and they all issued condemnations. Some chambers of commerce and countries also issued a bounty for the pirate group whose name they did not even know. As for the reaction of the pirates, although pirates of different strength levels have different feelings, the overall feeling of everyone can be expressed in 4 words: very happy. The middle and low level pirates are pure joy. The Kingdom of Thebes is one of the countries that pirates hate the most, and they often attack those pirate groups at the bottom to publicize their status in the northern waters. The Anchor pirates captured Earl's Port and slapped the face of the Kingdom of Thebes. They were all very happy, and at the same time they also had some gratitude. While the powerful large pirate groups were happy, they also had some worries. The Pirate King selection event is about to be held, but a pirate group has made such a cool move. It seems that they may not be able to get the position of Pirate King this time. The 3 major pirate groups have more considerations. After all, the Kingdom of Thebes is the most powerful country in the northern waters of Slays, and it also has a complex relationship with other forces. Although it is very happy to capture the port of Ears, they have to beware of the Thebes' revenge on the pirate forces. Of course, they will not blame the Anchor pirates. The 3 major pirate groups all have a grudge against the Kingdom of Thebes, so they naturally agree with this kind of face-slapping behavior. The above concerns are only considered from the perspective of the interests of the entire Shadow Island organization. Yufei can guess the reaction of the outside world. However, no matter how the various forces react, in general, the Anchor Pirates became famous in one battle. It's just that everyone doesn't know that it was the Anchor Pirates who did such a big thing. Chapter 316 Updates after school starts. Before talking about the update plan, Hongchen will tell you a true story. This afternoon, Hongchen arrived at school and then wrote chapters 310 and 311. Because there was no internet in the dormitory, Hongchen was going to transfer it with a USB drive and upload it to the internet cafe. Then something went wrong in the middle, and the manuscript of chapter 310 was lost, which almost pissed Hongchen off. But there was no other way, so he had to rewrite chapter 310, and then it was past 10 o'clock in the evening. At this time, the internet cafe in the school was closed, so Hongchen had to choose to climb over the wall to upload and finish the third chapter, which is chapter 312. But I don't know what the school did, and it actually raised the wall a lot. Fuck. Hongchen had no choice but to climb over the wall with the help of a tree and came to the internet cafe outside the school. In the process of climbing the tree and climbing the wall, I got 3 wounds on my hands and broke my knees. This is not to gain sympathy, but Hongchen was speechless about this unlucky day invented. Then I went to the internet cafe to upload chapters 310 and 311 and finished 312 and uploaded it just now. Apart from the wound on my palm that hurts from typing, there are no more annoying things like losing manuscripts. Now that I have finished my complaints, let me talk about my update plan after school starts. To be honest, I was really tired in August in order to have full attendance. And sometimes, many book friends are annoyed by the fact that I have to copy updates and then modify them in order to have full attendance. I want to say this again. I'm sorry. After school starts, I will have less time to write, and I have to take a makeup exam, so I can only try to update once a day. But if there are fewer updates, there won't be those repeated changes. Well, this is September. In October, there will be a buffer during the National Day holiday, and Hongchen will resume an average of 2 updates a day. I hope everyone can continue to support Hongchen. My knees and hands hurt at. Chapter 317 Rumors. Fortunately, the Pirates of SLAs are not like some terrorist organizations on Earth. They will take the blame, even if they did not do it themselves. 3 days have passed since the Anchor Pirates captured the port of Ears, but in everyone's eyes, there is still no news about the mysterious pirate group. In 3 days, Yufei not only transported the magic cores and magic crystals obtained from the port of Ears to the northern port, but also armed the newly acquired warships. With sufficient energy supply, the Night Elves equipped on the warships are constantly trained, and the strength of the Anchor Pirates has been improved. At this time, the Anchor Pirates can almost come to the fore. As the Anchor Pirates expanded, more than 100 pirate ships sailed along the route to Shadow Island, and an astonishing news quickly spread in the northern waters. The pirate group that captured the port of Ears in the Kingdom of Thebes is heading towards Shadow Island. This hidden pirate group named Anchor is preparing to take over Shadow Island. Upon hearing this news, the reactions of various forces are naturally different. Although the Kingdom of Thebes received news about the Anchor Pirates, it did not act rashly. The pirate forces in the northern waters are still very strong, especially in the Shadow Island area, which is the pirates' lair and holy land, and is not a place that outside forces can enter at will. Although the Kingdom of Thebes is the most powerful country at sea in the northern waters, it does not dare to go to the Shadow Island to find trouble with a pirate group. If they really dare to do so, even if the kingdom's fleets go into battle together, they will suffer in the Shadow Island. Seeing that the main force, the Kingdom of Thebes, did not take any action, the forces of other human countries naturally would not take the initiative to wade into this muddy water. Therefore, although it seemed that all official forces were indignant when the Anchor Pirates did not appear before, but after the Anchor Pirates really appeared, they did not suffer any immediate blow. In contrast to the official forces, the pirates' attitude towards the Anchor Pirates is a mixture of welcome and admiration. The Anchor Pirates' capture of Earl's Harbor was a truly proud move for the pirate forces. The pirates were very happy that their own people had done such a big thing. Some pirates had doubted the strength of the Anchor Pirates and whether they were imposters. However, when the Anchor pirates more than 100 pirate ships lined up and entered the range of Shadow Island, no pirate started it anymore. Among the current pirate groups, except for the 3 old pirate groups, few other pirate groups have more than 100 ships. Just from the number of ships, the Anchor pirates have enough strength to attack the ports of human countries. As pirates, they believe in the law of the jungle. Pirates will naturally have more identification with the powerful Anchor pirates. As the Anchor pirates' fleet gradually approached Shadow Island, many pirates drove their ships on both sides of the Anchor pirates' fleet. These pirates had no other purpose, they just wanted to express their excitement and admiration for the Anchor pirates. As more and more pirates followed the Anchor pirates' fleet on both sides, and in the rear, Euphony seemed to see the image of the star-chasing group on Earth. That's right, after the Anchor pirates drove more than a dozen warships obtained from the Kingdom of Thebes, and confirmed that Earl's port was indeed destroyed by the Anchor pirates, the Anchor pirates and their leader Yorick have become idols of many pirates. Yorick was just the leader of a low-level pirate group before, and now he suddenly experienced such a big scene, and the protagonist was himself. He was excited, and a little panicked. But now he is controlled by Euphony's soul after all, and under Euphony's influence, he seems to be calmer. The Anchor pirates' fleet finally approached Shadow Island. Although its reputation is booming now, the Anchor pirates will not break the long-standing rules of pirates. With only 3 ships, Yorick entered Shadow Island, and the other ships were anchored in the islands around Shadow Island. When Yorick arrived at Shadow Island, he found that all the members and 3 speakers of the Shadow Island Council had gathered, and were waiting for him. At this time, even with Euphony's influence, Yorick still lost his mind for a moment. Most of the pirates waiting for him here were the ones he had to look up to before. Especially the leaders of the 3 major pirate groups, they were legendary figures in his eyes. And now, because of his master, he could actually be on an equal footing with the legendary figures. There was no need to elaborate on what happened next. Yorick was also an old hand. When communicating with other people in the Shadow Island Council, he looked very comfortable. This made Euphony, who had been observing, feel satisfied. He was worthy of being the man chosen by himself to become the Pirate King. In the end, Yorick was confirmed by the Shadow Island Council as the winner of this Pirate King selection event. There was no way. The achievements of the Anchor pirates could not be achieved by other pirate groups in a short time. Even those pirate groups that had the strength to capture some ports would not do such stupid things at this time. Because of the actions of the Anchor pirates, all the human countries in the northern waters of SYNOPSIS are on alert. If ordinary pirate groups want to imitate the actions of the Anchor pirates again, it will definitely be a tragedy. In this way, in just less than a month, Yorick completed a gorgeous transformation from an unknown leader of a small pirate group to the 4th chairman of the Shadow Island organization. Next, it depends on whether Yorick can control the entire Shadow Island organization with the strength given to him by Euphony and his own means. Of course, this is indeed a difficult matter. The Shadow Island organization is an organization that symbolizes the unity and mutual assistance of pirates. If nothing unexpected happens, it will be difficult for the Anchor pirates to climb to a higher position in any name. When Yorick completely controls the Shadow Island organization, the Night Elves will have the 2 major advantages of air and sea control in SYNOPSIS. At that time, unifying SYNOPSIS will become an extremely simple matter. However, Euphony chose to spend so much effort and even personally participate in controlling the Shadow Island organization. Naturally, it would not be just to control the sea control in SYNOPSIS, which is not very important. His more specific purpose was actually to get the Heart of the Ocean, one of the 3 components of the Heart of Eternity that he had not yet obtained. The Heart of Light already had a clear location, it was just a matter of time to get it. The Heart of Darkness was said to be in the demon world, and it would be impossible to obtain it in a short time. In this case, the only way was to find a way to get the Heart of the Ocean first. Although it was unknown where the Heart of the Ocean would be, according to the description in the classics, every time the Heart of the Ocean appeared in the ocean, or on the seashore in history. In this way, it was necessary to control the power at sea. After Yorick completely controlled the Shadow Island organization, Euphony would let the pirates make finding the Heart of the Ocean their top priority. Yorick was now the top figure of the Shadow Island organization that crisscrossed the eastern and northern waters of Slays, and his help to the Night Elves could be immediately reflected. The ships of the Stanley Chamber of Commerce would never be targeted by pirates again, and some of the ships of the anchor pirates that could barely sail in the far North Sea were used by Ufeni to transport goods, which greatly accelerated the speed at which the Night Elves obtained energy. After dealing with the matters at sea, Ufeni originally thought that he could be free from trouble, but something happened again in the Dark Knight Empire. Of course, it was not an internal problem, but an external one. I don't know when it started, but a rumor began to spread gradually on the continent. No one knows who started this rumor, but the content of the rumor is very eye-catching, because it involves the legendary Heart of Eternity. It is said that the Night Elves have one of the components of the Heart of Eternity, the Heart of the Sky. The Heart of Eternity has always been just a legend. No one has really synthesized it for tens of thousands of years, but the components that synthesize it also have magical powers of varying sizes. The rumor shows that the ability of the Heart of the Sky, as its name suggests, can make a piece of land float in the sky and become a city in the sky. Just a little thought. Everyone who heard the rumor can clearly realize the benefits of owning a city in the sky. Although the strength of the Night Elves was relatively strong, under the temptation of this magical treasure, many forces still visited the Dark Knight Empire openly or secretly, and even directly tried to probe the high-level Night Elves through diplomatic channels, trying to get news about the Heart of the Sky. The pressure from many forces put a lot of pressure on the Elven elders who handled government affairs. Apart from anything else, the envoys sent by the Holy Lion Empire, which had previously signed a contract with the Dark Knight Empire, made elder wives exhausted. The Holy Lion Empire itself has the Heart of Light, so it naturally wants to get other components of the Heart of Eternity, and has made great efforts to try to confirm the authenticity of the news about the Heart of the Sky. Ufeni had just returned to the palace of the Dark Knight Empire when he heard elder wives report the news. He immediately reacted that this rumor must be the work of the Elf King's court. Queen Isabella recognized his identity at the time, and naturally knew that it was the Night Elves who seized the Heart of the Sky. Is this revenge? Ufeni was a little amused. This Queen Isabella is still a queen, and she only knows how to use these tricks. Isn't the Elven court strong? Why don't they come directly to seek revenge on the Night Elves? Ufeni was originally planning to conquer the entire elven tribe with the help of the newly transformed heroes. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 318 Naga Phantom. Although Ufeni looked down on Queen Isabella's little trick, the rumor about the Heart of the Sky did indeed cause trouble for the Dark Knight Empire. After all, the Night Elves still had an unstable foothold on the Slays continent. Although they had temporarily established an empire with their powerful strength, there were many forces secretly hostile to the Dark Knight Empire. Apart from anything else, at least the human race would definitely not have a good impression of the Night Elves and the Dark Knight Empire. The Holy Lion Empire was the most active after the rumor about the Night Elves possessing the Heart of the Sky spread. In addition to possessing the Heart of Light itself, it was probably also intended to take this opportunity to test, or even attack the Dark Knight Empire. Without Ufeni presiding over the overall situation in the Empire, the new elven officials of the Dark Knight Empire, who were originally just elders in a tribe, were obviously not mature enough in handling diplomatic affairs. Without a backbone, facing the aggressive envoys sent by various forces, the elven elders in charge of diplomacy could only resort to delaying tactics. Among them, these inexperienced elven elders often appear to be weaker when dealing with those envoys with rich diplomatic experience. Those diplomats are naturally aggressive. The weaker the elven elders appear, the more they press on. Because the Emperor of the Empire, Elf King Alan, has not appeared, the envoys sent by human countries even clamored that the Elf King must have obtained the Heart of the Sky and hid it for a search, and asked the Elf King to come out to explain. When Ufeni learned about these situations from the perspective of the Night Elves in the palace, how did he feel? Angry? Maybe, but more of it was laughing and crying. Yufei, who was busy dealing with the affairs of the Shadow Isles, did not think much and directly ordered Tyrande and Illidan to respond. First, Tyrande's moon god guard directly blocked the door of the envoys of various forces who were temporarily staying in the Dark Knight Empire. The external statement was that some hardline element left by the Kingdom of Seven had recently appeared in the Dark Knight Empire and wanted to carry out some terrorist activities. In order to protect the safety of the envoys, the Dark Knight Empire specially sent the most elite troops to protect them. However, this protection was a bit too strict. No one was allowed to enter or leave the mansion where the envoys lived, including those who were purchasing food. Facing those followers who wanted to go out to buy food, the members of the Moon Goddess Guard blocked them with the reason that it was dangerous outside and the food might be poisoned. None of the envoys who were sent to the Dark Knight Empire were fools. They soon realized that they were under house arrest. As for the Moon Goddess Guards who were blocking the door, they had no way to deal with them. It was okay to bully those elf elders who were not confident enough, but for the real Night Elves, their tricks were completely useless. It was not easy to contact several elf elders again through some means, but those elf elders who had been instructed long ago all said that they had no way and power to control the Night Elves, especially the personal guards of the Moon Priestess. The envoys who had been starving for 2 days finally realized that the Dark Knight Empire was serious. Those inexperienced elven elders could not represent the attitude of the Dark Knight Empire. Just as the name of the empire suggests, the real leaders of this newly established empire, which was mostly managed by native elves, were still the Night Elves. At the same time as Tyrande was taking action, under the instruction of Yufei, Illidan, the highest military commander of the Dark Knight Empire except for the Elf King, also took action. Most of the Night Elf troops had retreated into the Whispering Wind Forest after the establishment of the Elf Empire all walked out of the Whispering Wind Forest again under the leadership of Illidan. Several newly transformed heroes, under the assignment of Illidan, each led a part of the Night Elf troops to be deployed in various directions of the Dark Knight Empire, without any concealment. The stone giants more than 10 meters high and the strange giant birds flying in the sky all brought great pressure to the countries bordering the Dark Knight Empire. Combined with the treatment suffered by the envoys of various forces, and recalling the fate of the Kingdom of Seven, those forces that were confused by the rumors of the Heart of the Sky calmed down. It is obviously not a wise choice to offend the Dark Knight Empire, a rising power in the limelight for a rumor that is hard to tell whether it is true or false. Although many people want to stroke the tiger whiskers of the Night Elves, no one is willing to be the first bird to come out. Judging from the fact that the three major human empires signed an agreement with the Dark Knight Empire after repeated considerations, the forces of Vesles are more likely to compromise with the Dark Knight Empire. Under the strong attitude of the Night Elves, the turmoil caused by the rumors of the Heart of the Sky was temporarily suppressed. Yufei naturally knew that the behavior of the Dark Knight Empire, which did not give everyone face, could temporarily suppress the contradictions, but it would definitely erupt under some inducements later. However, at that time, the Night Elves would probably not care about the erupted contradictions. As for why he chose to deal with this matter in such a quick and decisive way, it was because something happened in the sea area again. Originally, after Yorick became the fourth speaker of the Shadow Island Council, the things in the sea area could be regarded as a temporary end. If there is no major change or opportunity next, Yorick can only stay in the position of the fourth speaker for a while and provide some convenience for the trade of the Night Elves. Of course, Yufei will not be satisfied with just this. He also hoped that the pirates of Shadow Island could help him find the heart of the ocean, so he naturally had to take full control of the Shadow Island organization. With the position of vice captain of the Anchor Pirates, he also contacted the captains of the War Pirates, Widow Pirates, and Warden Pirates as gangplank. However, because the three captains were very powerful, Yufei's tried and tested mental control finally suffered a Waterloo. Unable to directly control the old high-ranking officials of the Shadow Island Council, Yufei could only hope that the new Yorick under his control could gradually gain greater say. The opportunity for the Anchor Pirates and Yorick to further advance their status actually appeared soon. Shadow Island is located in the northeast of the Esra Sea. Compared with the northern waters with a relatively cold climate and relatively few trade routes, the pirates under the control of the Shadow Island organization are actually more active in the eastern waters. Just recently, some pirates active in the eastern waters discovered some creatures that had never appeared before. These creatures are like the legendary sea creatures, but the legendary sea creatures all live in the deep sea and have nothing to do with the land races. The pirates who discovered the strange creatures discovered them near the coast. Moreover, except for a small number of pirates who were discovered from a distance and were not attacked by these sea creatures, most of the pirates who encountered suspected sea creatures were attacked. Fortunately, there were not many suspected sea creatures involved in the attack. It seemed that they were more of a test, and the casualties of the pirates were not large. However, although the danger did not seem high, these newly appeared suspected sea creatures still attracted the attention of the Shadow Island organization. After participating in the emergency meeting of the Shadow Island Council, Yorick explained the attitude of the Shadow Island organization to Yufei. Yufei has a clear understanding of the status of pirates in S-Laser. Because the S-Laser continent is a whole piece, many races on land do not attach much importance to the sea areas that are regarded as marginal areas. Therefore, there are not many forces that develop maritime strength. When the pirates were in a loose stage, the coastal countries could still launch actions like the pirate suppression activities decades ago, but after the entire eastern and northern seas were integrated into the unified power of the Shadow Island organization, the pirates could be called the maritime overlords of S-Lays. Of course, this positioning does not mean that pirates can provoke countries at will. After all, the Shadow Island organization is just an organization similar to a pirate guild, and the pirate groups are still separate. The so-called hegemony is for the entire pirate force. But even such a precondition of hegemony can still bring great benefits to the pirates. Apart from anything else, at least the security is much better than when there was no organization. Some of the more powerful pirate groups even divided a piece of sea area for themselves, no longer completely plundering merchant ships, but willingly collecting the crossing fee. Now a new unknown force has appeared, and it is very likely that it is the legendary powerful sea clan in the sea, which will naturally provoke the nerves of the pirates. If the pirates or Shadow Island organization's dominance is challenged or even overthrown, the pirates' current good life will be gone. Therefore, after the discussion and vote of the parliament, Shadow Island organization quickly established its attitude towards the newly appeared suspected sea creatures. Just as those creatures made tentative attacks on the pirates, Shadow Island organization also decided to conduct offensive probing on the suspected sea creatures, which can be regarded as a response to the attack of the sea creatures. Yorick, who was ordered by Yufei to seize every opportunity to improve his status, naturally did not hesitate to take on this task with some other pirate groups. In order to enhance the reputation of the new speaker and maintain the majesty of the Shadow Island Parliament, the first speaker Hecarim, the second speaker Evelyn and the third speaker Thresh all acquiesced to Yorick's participation. Yufei naturally expressed his approval for Yorick's clever move. Yufei, who was also very curious about those suspected sea creatures, naturally participated in the attack on the unknown sea creatures in the capacity of Gangplank, the deputy leader of the Anchor Pirates. However, after obtaining the information and magic images collected by the Shadow Island Council, Yufei always felt that those creatures that looked like sea creatures looked familiar for some reason. Chapter 319 Discovering the Sea Tribe. The scorching sun shines quietly on the sea, and sea fish jump out of the sea from time to time, leaping between the waves. It is a quiet afternoon. In the vast ocean, most places are so calm, and many sea areas have never been discovered or reached by anyone. However, this sea area is not a remote place. For a long time in the past, this was a route passed by many merchant ships. Of course, it is also a place where pirates look for prey or collect protection fees. Even some sea fish living in this sea area have become accustomed to the lifeless big sea fish swimming over their heads from time to time. Smart fish have even learned to follow the sea ships and get some free food, that is, the garbage dumped by the sea ships. But in recent times, these smart sea fish have puzzledly discovered that the big sea fish that used to appear frequently and bring rich food rarely appear. Perhaps this has something to do with the groups of creatures that have recently appeared in the sea, exuding a strong aura. A group of sea fish swam with the waves for a while and finally decided to dive to the surface of the sea to find food for themselves. It seems that the big sea fish that have been swimming on the surface of the sea and can bring food will not appear. However, just when some of them dived to the bottom of the sea first, the sea fish that had not had time to dive excitedly found that many sea ships that could bring food appeared in the distance. These sea fish naturally gave up the idea of diving to the bottom of the sea to find food and followed behind and below the fleet of hundreds of ships. Sure enough, a lot of garbage was soon dumped from the sea ship, including food residues. The sea fish quickly scrambled for food, causing many small splashes on the sea surface. On the largest ship in the fleet, a figure in a black robe was lazily leaning on the railing around the deck in the glaring noon sun. He held a large piece of bread in his hand, broke it into small pieces, and threw it into the sea to feed the fish surrounding the ship. As for the black-robed figure's waste of food, the sailors on the deck seemed to have not seen it at all, and no one questioned it. Just kidding. This black-robed figure is the second in command of the pirate group, and in the hearts of the real core members of the pirate group, they all know that the deputy captain gangplank is actually above Captain Yorick. If other people waste precious food to feed the fish during the voyage, they will definitely be despised and even cursed by the sailors, but this big man is naturally different. The higher the status, the greater the privileges. And this is why Ufei has always been thinking about unifying SLAs. Improving strength and finding a way to return to Earth is certainly one of the reasons why Ufei has been working hard to improve his own strength and the strength of the Night Elves, but his purpose is naturally not just that simple. After all, when he was on Earth, Ufei was just an ordinary civilian. After possessing an imaginable power, he would naturally consider reaching a position that was previously unimaginable. Just like the Anchor Pirates he controls now. Before he got involved, the Anchor Pirates were just an ordinary small pirate group in the Shadow Island organization, and not many people would care about the voice of the Anchor Pirates. But now, under the control of Ufei, the Anchor Pirates have become one of the four giants of the Shadow Island organization, and the demands made cannot be ignored even by the entire Shadow Island Council. It is precisely because of this that Ufei can legitimately become the second person in the team that contacts the Sea Clan and even goes to war with the Sea Clan. The Shadow Island organization attaches great importance to the suspected sea creatures that suddenly appear and may affect the position of the Shadow Island organization at sea. In addition to the Anchor Pirates' own 30 most elite warships obtained from human countries, some other pirate groups outside the four giants also sent part of their forces. After all, according to legend, the sea creatures are very powerful in the sea, and they have attacked a small number of pirate ships before. It is necessary to form a joint fleet. Under the leadership of Yorick, the fleet organized by Shadow Island has been wandering in this sea area where creatures that attacked sea ships have appeared for 2 days, but they have not found anything. After the unknown creatures attacked and even sank several sea ships some time ago, few ships have passed through this relatively prosperous route. Pirates are still reasonable. Paying protection fees is already an unspoken rule, and the caravans will not worry about encountering danger from pirates. But the unknown sea creatures that cannot communicate are different. Without merchant ships passing by, ordinary pirates will naturally not appear here, not to mention that there are unknown dangers here. So in 2 days, the huge fleet did not encounter any other ships except for the company of sea fish. Gradually, some pirates in the fleet became impatient and thought that those suspected sea creatures might have moved away long ago, but they all shut up under the strong suppression of Yorick, one of the four giants of Shadow Island. Yorick had just taken office, and this was his first time to carry out a major mission for the Shadow Island organization. It was a good opportunity to establish his prestige, so how could he tolerate any discordant voices? However, Yorick was a little nervous in his heart. After 2 days of searching, no trace of the sea tribe was found, which made Yorick, who was just a small figure a few months ago, a little impatient. Ufei was not in a hurry. Although this operation was related to whether Yorick, who he controlled, could have a higher status in the Shadow Island organization, He had a hunch that, although there had been no discoveries so far, this operation would definitely have great gains. Not only Yorick's gains, but also himself, and the Night Elves. Yufei also had some guesses about his inexplicable premonition. But he was too lazy to think about it. When the so-called sea tribe appeared, everything would naturally become clear. But it was really boring to keep swimming on the sea, so Yufei had to feed the fish to pass the time. Suddenly, Yufei, who was breaking bread to feed the fish, paused for a moment, and then his face became excited. Of course, because of the black robe, no one noticed Yufei's expression. Calmly returning to the cabin, Yufei informed Yorick to be ready through the mental control he exerted on Yorick. Just now, Yufei had been diluting the mental force field that was scattered around and far away on the seabed, and made a discovery. About 10 miles away, at a depth of about 300 meters, some strange creatures appeared on the seabed. Yufei had a helpless smile on his lips. The image of the so-called sea creatures was really no different from what he imagined. Just like the impression he had gotten about the sea creatures from Dan Nang before, the sea creatures were like some monsters that had half successfully and half failed in transformation, with some characteristics of sea creatures and human forms. There were quite a few sea creatures that appeared in Yufei's mental force field, more than 300. Most of them were a kind of slenderfish sea creatures, but Yufei couldn't recognize whether they were tuna or barracuda. In addition, there were some smaller numbers of sea creatures with shells. As for the leader of this sea tribe team, it is quite easy to identify. The huge sea tribe with obvious shark characteristics must be the leader. Looking at the direction these sea tribes are heading, they are actually looking for the fleet they are in. This is too confident. Only a few hundred sea tribes are looking for trouble with more than 100 warships. Do they think that pirates are made of mud? Yufei is wrong about the sea tribe, as these sea tribes, who have always lived in the open sea, under the leadership of the mysterious queen, they came to the near sea. These sea tribes can be said to be bumpkins, and have no knowledge of the human world. As for pirate ships, their understanding of them is just the scattered images that they were easily sunk before. Although there are quite a lot of pirate ships this time, the sea tribes who think that these huge creatures floating on the sea are just paper sharks did not even ask the queen for permission, and they attacked on their own. If hundreds of sea tribes sneaked under the fleet and pierced the bottom of the ship, although it would not cause great casualties, it would be a troublesome thing for the pirates. However, Yorick, who had received Yufei's warning in advance and quickly took countermeasures, was relieved. If the sea tribe had not appeared, it would indeed be a troublesome thing. Unknown enemies are always the most terrifying. But as long as they appear, there will always be a way to deal with them. Thinking that the actions against the sea tribe were related to his own status promotion, Yorick even became a little excited. Although he had never come into contact with the sea tribe before, from the pirates who had been attacked before, the Shadow Island organization had a superficial understanding of the general combat methods of the sea tribe. Generally speaking, when dealing with ships floating on the sea tribe would take the method of drilling the bottom of the ship. In this regard, the pirates also quickly came up with a way to deal with it. When sailing in the sea, it is inevitable to encounter some sharks and even powerful monsters in the sea. Weapons such as crossbows on warships are very effective when dealing with other ships, but they are not very useful when fighting against sea creatures. In the long-term sea voyage, depth charges came into being as weapons to deal with sea monsters. Of course, this kind of depth charge is a bomb in the sense of magic, and the cost is also not cheap. In order to deal with the sea creatures, the Shadow Island organization made a painful decision and equipped the fleet led by Yorick with a large number of magical depth charges. Now, the more than 300 sea creatures are about to taste the power of these bombs. Chapter 320 Depth Charge. Gump shouted to his sea tribesmen to speed up their actions. As an ordinary shark warrior in the shark tribe, he could now lead hundreds of sea tribesmen. Gump felt that he had become a big shot. Although the queen came as a conqueror and eventually ruled the shark tribe and many other sea tribes by violence, most of the sea tribesmen, like Gump, were full of admiration for the queen. After all, the law of the jungle is an unchanging truth. The strange sea tribesmen that the queen truly trusted and led were too powerful. When they found that they had no ability to resist, most of the sea tribesmen wisely chose to submit to the queen. Anyway, they were all sea tribesmen, so there was no psychological pressure, right? Gump was just an ordinary warrior in the shark tribe. Although the sharks had a high status in the sea tribe, it was impossible for hundreds of sea tribesmen to obey his orders completely like now. Gump felt grateful and respectful to Queen Azura, who satisfied his desire for power. Therefore, after the queen led the sea tribes to the sea area near the Slays continent and issued an order to attack the sea ships to obtain information, Agan was the first to respond. Some time ago, they did successfully sink some ships and got a lot of things from the sea ships. Queen Azura also expressed satisfaction with this, which gave Agan more motivation. So, when he found a fleet of a large number of sea ships in the sea area he patrolled today, he did not think much about it and led hundreds of sea tribes under his command to launch an attack. The prey this time looks very rich. Agan thought happily that after this action, maybe the queen would promote him heavily. As for the possibility of failure of the action, his simple brain did not consider it at all. In the few previous actions, although Agan also took hundreds of sea tribesmen to go out, those sea ships were easily pierced and sunk by a few sea tribes, without any resistance. After a simple substitution, although there were hundreds of ships this time, Agan still believed that the hundreds of sea creatures under his command were enough to defeat the prey. After coming back to his senses from the beautiful dream that the queen would reuse him after the operation was successful, Agan narrowed his huge eyes as he looked at the fleet that was still moving forward at a slow speed in the eyes of the sea creatures. It seemed that these prey did not notice the arrival of the sea creatures, otherwise they would not continue to move forward so swaggeringly. This was just right, and Agan waved his sturdy arms that evolved from fish fins. The sea creatures under his command had also participated in the operation of attacking sea ships before, and they all slowed down their swimming speed and reduced their movements and quietly came to the sea about 300 meters below Euphenia's fleet. Then, under Agan's command, the sea creatures kept their forward speed at a level similar to that of the sea ships and began to slowly float up. After they touched the bottom of the ships, the sea creatures that were evolved from tuna or barracuda could play their role and drill through the bottom of the ships to sink them. However, when Agan was commanding his sea creatures carelessly, thinking that they would soon be able to successfully sink the ships, like they had done several times before, they found that some strange things were falling from the ships quickly. After sinking into the water, they fell towards them with a string of bubbles at an incredibly fast speed. What is this? All the sea creatures, including Agan, stared at the balls that fell on their heads. The sea creatures didn't wait for too long to be confused. The magic depth charge was specially made, and it descended very quickly after entering the water. Otherwise, if the target quickly escaped from the area affected by the bomb, wouldn't the expensive magic depth charge be thrown away in vain? The sea creatures were only confused for a moment, and the strange balls in their eyes had already reached their heads and soon showed a power that made them terrified. No, it was a power that was already fatal. Boom. The speed of sound propagation in water is several times faster than in air. After sensing the sea creatures that were slowly floating up, more than 300 magic depth charges dropped by hundreds of pirate ships immediately exploded one after another, and the huge sound quickly spread on the seabed. The fish swimming in the distance were also startled by the loud noise of the depth charges, and even large fish quickly fled from here. But when the sound spread to the sea surface, only a series of muffled sounds remained. Therefore, except Euphony, no one knew the effect of these magic depth charges. The explosion continued. Because the time of sensing the sea creatures was different, the bombs did not explode at the same time. After the first batch, some bombs still exploded on the seabed one by one. For the sea creatures such as Agan, this was a blessing in disguise if more than 300 bombs exploded around them at the same time. Even the shark warrior Agan would have difficulty surviving. Euphony curled his lips. It seemed that these magic depth charges were still somewhat useful. Of the 300 or so sea creatures, after being bombed by the bombs, only less than 40 of them were lucky enough to be at the edge of the bomb's range. The injuries on these lucky ones were very light, because after the first wave of bombs exploded, they all used their fastest speed to quickly dive or swim around, avoiding the subsequent bombs. The other lucky sea creatures who were not killed in the first wave of bombing, but were seriously injured, could only watch themselves being destroyed by the subsequent bombs, because they were unable to dodge. If Yufei took action himself, although he could kill these sea creatures, because they were hundreds of meters deep underwater, the effort or mental power consumed was very huge. Now with the depth charge, only more than 30 of the hundreds of sea creatures were left, and they could be easily captured. The magic depth charge does not cause damage by shrapnel. This physical attack is useless for the sea creatures with smooth skin and strong defense. The damage it brings mainly relies on the huge magic shockwave. Therefore, although more than 30 sea creatures including Forrest Gump avoided the subsequent magic depth charges, they were still dizzy from the waves of shockwaves. Just when Forrest Gump, who was the strongest and the first to recover, was ready to escape quickly and leave these terrible enemies, he and the other surviving sea creatures discovered that the surrounding sea water suddenly seemed to solidify, and they could not swim at all. This was naturally Yufei's method. With his powerful mental strength, he directly manipulated the sea water around the remaining dozens of sea creatures, forming a cage and bringing them to the surface of the sea. I'll post a chapter early. Speaking of which, I dropped out of school. Chapter 321 Yufei's ambition. Among the more than 30 sea creatures that were captured, only the strongest one, Agan, was awake. The rest of the shrimp soldiers and crab generals were in a coma under the shock waves of the subsequent bombs and the pressure of Yufei's mental restraint. However, Yufei did not expect to learn much information from those ordinary sea creatures. He just caught the sea creatures except Agan. As for the pirates in the fleet, the sea creatures that flew out of the sea surprised them all and made a noise. After all, there were not many magicians among the pirates, and no pirate had ever seen such a strong mental power, so naturally they could not understand how these sea creatures were captured. As more than 30 sea creatures fell on the deck of the fleet's flagship, the noise in the fleet reached its peak. But then Yufei's cold snort with mental shock did make the sea surface quiet instantly. After a short dizziness, everyone looked at the proud figure in black robes on the flagship deck with fear, and seemed to understand why the deputy leader of the anchor pirates had a special status. Looking at Yufei again, he walked into the cabin calmly, as if the mental shock that stunned thousands of people just now was not caused by him. However, the ferocious shark warrior who was frozen in the void and followed his figure into the cabin proved his strength. When the figure in black robes completely disappeared in the cabin, the pirates dared to talk to each other again, but the voices were much smaller than before. No one knew what the deputy leader of the anchor pirates did to the shark man in the cabin. Anyway, half an hour later, Forrest Gump was tied up tightly with ropes like the sea creatures captured by other pirates, and each was dragged behind a pirate ship. These sea creatures are not small in size and heavy. If they are all locked in the cabin, it will inevitably affect the navigation of the ship. It was the experienced Yorick who came up with a way to tie the sea creatures behind the ship. After all, the sea creatures will not be drowned, and there is no fear that the carnivorous fish in the sea will treat the sea creatures as food with so many ships together. Under the order of Yorick, the nominal supreme leader of the fleet, which had been sailing in this sea for several days, finally began to return. Although it took several days, after encountering the sea tribe, there was no loss as expected, which made all the pirates in the fleet secretly happy. In addition to being happy, the pirates who participated in this operation were also in awe of the power shown by Yufei. Although most of the pirate leaders are rough people, there are still a few low-level mages in each pirate group. These mages naturally know how terrifying the mental power shown by Yufei is. After communicating with the magicians in the group, the leaders of each pirate group clearly understood the power of Yufei, and naturally regarded the previous events as a way for the anchor pirates to show their strength. At this point, they gradually recognized the newly promoted anchor pirates and the fourth speaker Yorick. While other pirates were talking about it, Yufei in the flagship cabin fell into deep thought. Although he did not understand the language of the sea tribe, the shark warrior was not an enemy that would easily surrender, but under Yufei's rough and direct mental hypnosis and communication, he successfully obtained the information he wanted. As previously guessed, the sea tribes that suddenly appeared all migrated from the deep sea. However, the reason was not the imagined change in the deep sea, but the sea tribes took the initiative to migrate to the mainland. According to historical records, the sea tribes were divided into tribes and fought each other, but this time they were able to unite and march into the SYNOPSIS continent, and even different types of sea tribes could be mixed in the same team and led by a shark warrior, which made Ufeli very puzzled before. And this question was answered by Ufeli from the shark warrior Agan. However, this answer made Ufeli fall into deep thought. The suddenly appearing powerful sea tribe forces and the mysterious queen are all what Ufeli is concerned about. The description of the appearance of the suddenly appearing sea tribe from Agan made Ufeli guess, and the transliteration of the name of the mysterious queen Azura surprised Ufeli even more. Originally, because of a mysterious premonition, Ufeli put aside some trivial matters in his original body and participated in this action of the Shadow Island Council. Unexpectedly, this premonition actually came true. Is it really what he imagined? Ufeli found that his current focus might be on the sea. On the continent of SYNOPSIS, after the establishment of the Dark Knight Empire, it temporarily formed a state of balance with other forces. The current strength of the Night Elves is not enough to directly launch a war to conquer the entire continent. In a short period of time, they can only accumulate strength by obtaining energy and absorbing local elves. Now, the emergence of the Naga tribe has given Ufeli a glimmer of hope. Ufeli is not a person who can develop in peace, and he does not think that humans will sit back and watch the elves being condensed into a force by the Dark Knight Empire. After all, there is a very long-standing hatred between humans and other alien races, and it is impossible to let the former enemies grow into a threat to the tribe. Then, external forces are needed to break the temporary balance on the current continent of SYNOPSIS. Originally, Ufeli was going to let the Night Elves be patient for a while, accumulating strength while waiting for the next invasion of the demon world, but now he has found a better choice. If it is true as he imagined, the powerful mysterious sea tribe that suddenly appeared is the Naga tribe. Perhaps the Naga tribe and the Night Elves can be integrated into one force. Sitting quietly on the bed, Ufeli narrowed his eyes. According to the information obtained from the shark warrior, although the strength of the Naga tribe at this time is still a distance away from the well-developed Night Elves, it also has strong strength. What's more, the Naga tribe is good at water warfare, which is the shortcoming of various forces on the SYNOPSIS continent. At that time, on the one hand, the Naga tribe will attack from the sea and the big rivers and lakes from east to west, and on the other hand, the Dark Knight Empire will advance from the west to east from the Warcraft mountains. There is still a great possibility of gaining a war advantage. Opening his eyes, Ufeli's eyes radiated a breathtaking light. If the Naga tribe can really be won over, perhaps it won't take long for the Night Elves to conquer SYNOPSIS. The thing about dropping out of school is true. The formalities have been completed. Next I will seriously write novels and say goodbye to my student life. Chapter 320 to return to Shadow Isles. With this thought, Ufeli even had the urge to go and talk to the mysterious Queen Azura of the Naga tribe. However, this emotion only lasted for a moment, and he soon suppressed this impulse. Although he had some superficial understanding and guesses about the Naga tribe from the shark warriors, the information he obtained was still very little, not enough for Ufeli to fully judge the strength of the Naga tribe. Moreover, although Ufeli's Elven King clone was powerful, he was not omnipotent. He was still unable to go to the bottom of the sea to contact the Naga tribe whose attitude was unknown. After considering many aspects, Ufeli finally gave up the idea of visiting the Naga tribe alone. Now, after all, he was covered with the layer of skin of the Shadow Island organization. Next, he would use this pirate organization to eliminate the Naga tribe. With a plan in mind, Ufeli slowly walked out of the cabin and came to the deck of the flagship. Looking at the more than 30 sea creatures tied to the back of each ship, even though they were tied up, they still instinctively twisted their bodies along the water flow without showing any embarrassment. He sighed in his heart. Although the Shadow Island organization has dominated the North Sea and the East Sea of SYNOPSIS for a long time, this is because there are not many countries that focus on developing maritime power. Therefore, the status of the maritime hegemon is not a small amount of water. The sea tribe that has appeared now, and the Naga tribe behind them are extremely powerful in the sea. Ufeli does not think that the Shadow Island organization can have any major impact on the sea tribe or their plans. After all, the sea battles in SLAs have always been limited to the sea, and there is really no effective way to deal with the sea tribe and other species living in the sea. Although the effect of the magic depth bomb looked good before, it was also because the sea tribe had never seen this kind of weapon before. After being prepared, relying on the flexibility of the sea tribe on the seabed, the depth bomb may be difficult to work in the battle. Unless, in addition to the magic depth bomb, the Shadow Island organization also has other naval weapons. In short, Yufei is extremely pessimistic about the collision between the Shadow Island organization and the sea tribe, but this is also beneficial to him. Now the anchor pirates he controls is only the fourth force of the Shadow Island Council, and there are still 3 mountains above it. If the anchor pirates can take control of the Shadow Island organization and bring the Naga tribe under their command by taking advantage of the collision with the Sea Clan, then Yufei can say that he is not afraid of any force in the waters. Of course, this is just the best idea, and everything depends on his operation. After capturing the Sea Clan, the fleet chose to return to Shadow Island. Along the way, the possible attack of the Sea Clan that the pirates were worried about did not occur. Yufei captured all the survivors of the Sea Clan team led by the Shark Warrior on the ship, and no one escaped. Naturally, the Sea Clan would not react so quickly. In this way, the entire fleet returned to Shadow Island intact, and the sensation it brought was unparalleled. The existence of the Sea Clan has always been a legend in SLAs. Perhaps many people have encountered the Sea Clan, but most of them have only died. The records of the few people who survived have formed a vague rumor about the Sea Clan. For a long time, the Sea Clan has lived in the deep sea and has no conflict with the SLA's continent and the offshore waters around the continent. Although there are some rumors about the sea people on the mainland, it is difficult to see them. Now, the sea people who were investigating the situation in the Shadow Island organization have captured more than 30 sea people alive, so naturally the pirates on the island want to satisfy their curiosity. For a time, the port of Shadow Island was crowded with people, and almost all the pirates on the island were huddled together and looked up at the sea surface of the port. When everyone really saw those tuna with many intelligent biological characteristics and the majestic Shark Warrior Forrest Gump, the whole port was suddenly drowned by the tide of discussion. Standing at the bow of the Shadow Island organization, the fourth speaker of the anchor pirates, Yorick, was smiling. This operation can be said to be extremely perfect. Without losing a ship or a pirate, more than 30 sea people were captured and brought back. There may be more casualties. Without Yufei's mental strength, no one knows how many sea people were killed by the depth charge. Yufei has always maintained his mystery and has not revealed it to others. Such a successful operation can be said to have greatly enhanced the reputation of the anchor pirates and their leader in the entire Shadow Island organization. It seems that the pirates who had originally questioned his position as the fourth speaker had to admit the status of the anchor pirates after this incident. And this was exactly the purpose of Yorick taking on this difficult task at the time. The ships with the Sea Clan tied to the stern were all warships of the anchor pirates. After docking, Yorick took the core members of the anchor pirates to the Shadow Hall in the center of the port. Yufei habitually called it the Gathering Hall. As for the other pirate ships that participated in the operation, they all drove their ships to their own ports on the island, or left Shadow Island. Not every pirate group is qualified to build a port on Shadow Island, and only the ships of the 4 major pirate groups can dock at the main port of Shadow Island. Yufei did not go to the Gathering Hall with Yorick, but stayed on the ship. Yorick's purpose was to tell the Shadow Island Council about the battle with the Sea Tribe. The rest was nothing more than discussing with other speakers and councillors how to deal with the Sea Tribe after they were confirmed to have appeared. Through the mental control of Yorick, Yufei could choose to sense Yorick's 5 senses, as long as the distance was not too far, so he was too lazy to go to the scene. He stayed on the ship, not without things to do. Although he had obtained a lot of information from the Shark Warrior Forrest Gump through hypnosis, Yufei still decided to hypnotize the other captured sea tribes in order to obtain more information. The hypnosis process went very smoothly. Although no other useful information was obtained from the minds of these lower-ranking sea tribes, at least Yufei confirmed one thing, that is, the mental power of these sea tribes was generally weak. The strength of those tuna warriors converted into human levels is probably around level 3 to 4, but their mental power is a little weaker than that of ordinary humans with level 2 strength. This can also explain why it is difficult for Yufei to hypnotize humans of level 7 or 8, but there is no hindrance in hypnotizing shark warriors of the same level. It seems that weak mental strength is a major weakness of the General Sea tribe, but I don't know if the Naga tribe is the same. Yufei came to a conclusion and turned his attention to Yorick to see what the Shadow Island Council discussed. Han Chen has dropped out of school and is now writing books at home. You can rest assured about future updates. Only one chapter will be posted every day in December, but more than one chapter will be written every day. Han Chen must learn from the lesson and save up manuscripts. Starting tomorrow, I will update regularly at 8 AM every day and resume 2 chapters a day next month. Chapter 323, Adding Fuel to the Fire. At this time, Yorick had already made a report-style narration of the whole process of the confrontation with the Sea Tribe in the Parliament. He did not hide the power displayed by Yufei. The pirates of the entire fleet had seen Yufei's ability. Yorick couldn't hide it, even if he wanted to, so he simply told it all. After knowing that the upstart pirate group, the Anchor Pirates, actually had a legendary or even higher level high-end strongman, the leaders of the 3 major pirate groups and other councillors had a significant change in their attitude towards Yorick. Unlike the situation on land, where the strong will be subject to greater restrictions and may not be able to compete with the army, the status of the strong is obviously higher in the sea. Because after reaching the Yangtze level, even ordinary soldiers can fly at low altitude for a short time, and it is impossible to implement human wave tactics in naval battles like on land. This makes it possible to take the head of the admiral in a sea battle. This is why the captain of a general pirate group is the strongest in the entire pirate group. If a weak person becomes the captain, it is too easy for the enemy to implement the decapitation tactic. It is precisely because of these factors that the strong are respected among pirates, and the Anchor Pirates were able to quickly become one of the 4 major pirate groups of the Shadow Island organization from a little-known force. After explaining the process of the action and showing off the strength of his pirate group, Yorick consciously took the position of the 4th speaker. The next step is for the entire parliament to discuss the attitude towards the sea people in the future, and this discussion is still led by the 3 veteran speakers. After all, Yorick has only been in office for less than half a month. Even if he has shown strong strength, he can only have a say and a suggestion on the major policies in the parliament, but he cannot play a leading role. When Yorick showed his strength before, he was passionate and high-spirited, but now he has learned to pretend to be a grandson and just listen to the discussion. However, Yufei hopes that Yorick will do more than just make a cameo. When Yufei discovered through Yorick that the tendency of the parliamentary discussion was gradually towards launching a deeper confrontation with the sea people, he did not hesitate to instruct Yorick to add fuel to the fire. Everyone, please be quiet for a moment and listen to me. As Yorick's voice sounded, the noisy gathering hall gradually quieted down. Everyone's eyes were focused on the previously low-key 4th speaker. Being focused on by everyone, Yorick did not seem nervous and put forward his opinion slowly. I just listened for a long time. Now there are only 2 opinions in the parliament, to go to war or not to go to war. What prompted everyone to put forward their own opinions is what they would gain or lose after the war. Yorick's words hit the point, and most of the pirate leaders present nodded slightly and continued to look at him to see what he would say next. More than half of the councillors present think that we should go to war because the appearance of the Sea Tribe has greatly affected the interests of us pirates. If we don't get rid of the Sea Tribe or repel them, not only will our pirate ships be threatened by the Sea Tribe at all times, but even our way to eat will be blocked. What I want to say now is that we should not choose to go to war just because the Sea Tribe has affected our lives. In addition, we can gain more by fighting the Sea Tribe. Looking around, Yorick saw that all the pirate leaders were listening, as if he was their mentor. This gave Yorick great satisfaction, and the next words were mixed with more incitement. After capturing those sea tribes, the deputy leader of our Anchor Pirates, the powerful wizard Master Plank, discovered an amazing secret. Although these sea tribes have a certain degree of wisdom, those sea tribes like Tuna are relatively low in wisdom. They can even be tamed like monsters. Everyone knows what this means, right? Yorick stopped talking and looked at every pirate leader who was staring at him with a confident look. Of course. Those who can become pirate leaders are not fools. They all thought of the deep meaning contained in this information quickly or slowly. If the sea creatures can be tamed like monsters, even if they are only low-level sea creatures, it means that the Shadow Island organization or every pirate group can greatly improve their own strength. Although within the Shadow Island organization, everyone can tame the sea creatures, and the strength comparison of each pirate group may not change, but externally, it can be said that the strength has increased dramatically. Not every coastal country will devote itself to developing maritime strength, and not every country that develops maritime strength can specialize in maritime affairs like the Shadow Island organization, and even research magic depth charges. Ordinary warships have no countermeasures against the tactics of sea creatures invading from the sea and drilling the bottom of the ship. If a certain number of sea creatures can be tamed, the pirates can be said to be not afraid of any force in the controlled sea area. At that time, they can rob any caravan they want and attack any coastal port they want. The pirates will become the real overlords of the sea. Just as the pirate leaders were imagining things, Yorick continued to follow Euphenia's instructions and added fuel to the fire. Perhaps everyone just thinks about the improvement of our pirate strength after taming the low-level sea creatures, but I'm afraid everyone has not thought deeply about the greater intangible benefits we can gain from fighting the sea creatures. Without waiting for others to raise questions, Yorick continued to incite without any pause. Although our reputation as pirates is not very good along the coast of Eslays and even the entire continent, we are still part of the human race, right? And the sea tribe is a naked alien race. It seems that they want to invade the coastal waters of Eslays. They are the enemies of the entire human race. If our Shadow Island organization defeats and repels the sea tribe, won't we be the heroes of the entire human race? With such a huge reputation, and by expanding our strength, by taming low-level sea tribes, our organization can develop to a high level. Yorick's words can be said to be shocking. The pirate leaders present, including the 3 speakers who are higher in status than him, did not expect Yorick to say such far-sighted words. Higher level? The leader of a pirate group asked in a hoarse voice. There was a vague guess in their hearts, but everyone present still focused their eyes on Yorick, looking forward to his answer. Yes. High level. Euphenie, who stayed on the ship, smiled slightly. This flame should be poured with a bucket of oil. Yorick's face was solemn as he slowly uttered 2 words. Establish. A country. The background is updated regularly, and it will be like this in the future. Chapter 324 Meeting Conclusion. Establish a nation. Establish a nation. The 2 words Yorick uttered were like adding fuel to the fire, instantly igniting the atmosphere in the gathering hall. Some smart pirate leaders had previously guessed what Yorick meant by a high level, but they did not expect that it was really such an ambition for pirates to establish a nation. But after being shocked, everyone thought carefully, combined with what Yorick had just said, and they had a possible judgment in their hearts. As Yorick said, resisting alien races can bring incomparable prestige. The sea races are completely different from the races on land. The pirates defeated and repelled the sea races that invaded the Eslays continent, which not only made contributions to the human race, but also could be said to have defended the Eslays continent. From a righteous point of view, the forces on the continent had no reason to oppose the pirates to establish a nation. Although the organization of the pirates is relatively loose, if they are truly integrated, the combined strength is still greater than that of ordinary kingdoms. If many low-level sea races are enslaved, it can even be said that in addition to the high-end strength, the overall strength can be comparable to the 3 major empires. At that time, it is not impossible to establish a country dominated by pirates. At this time, Yorick continued to speak. You may think that it is not an easy thing to establish a country in the Eslays continent where the power division has been determined, but there are precedents for this kind of thing. Looking around, Yorick followed Euphenia's instructions and read out the script. Everyone here should have more or less known about the Dark Knight Empire established by the elves some time ago. Although they are different from us in terms of race, the elves are a foreign race, but their essence is the same. The elves are a foreign race, and it should be more difficult to establish a new country to be recognized, but in the end they succeeded in establishing an empire. Why? Isn't it because of their strong strength? As long as we have strong enough strength, it is not a delusion for us pirates to establish a country. Although our strength is much worse than that of the elves, our advantage is that we are part of the human race, and we have a status after expelling the sea people. As long as we do not occupy too much land in those countries and establish a country based on the sea, islands and coastal areas, it will be easy to be recognized by the mainland countries. Yorick was about to continue speaking, but was interrupted by another person. This person was Hecarim, the leader of the war pirates and the first speaker of the Shadow Island Council. The fourth speaker is right. Hecarim stared at Yorick fiercely, putting a lot of pressure on him. When speaking, Hecarim emphasized the word fourth, which made Yorick realize that he seemed to have said too much and was a little high profile. Then, he kept silent and listened to Hecarim's conclusion with others. There are many benefits to going to war with the Sea Tribe, but ignoring it will weaken us. No matter from which angle, choosing to fight the Sea Tribe is inevitable. I don't think anyone will object now. From the name of Hecarim's pirate group, War, it can be seen that he is a warlike person. What's more, it is said that Hecarim was originally a general who was framed in a powerful kingdom, and naturally he longed for a big war. Before Yorick spoke, Hecarim was the backbone of advocating war. Now with many reasons, he directly concluded this meeting. Yorick was not angry because Hecarim took over his words and made a conclusion. As the newly appointed fourth speaker, he was not qualified to lead the meeting and announce the final result in the Shadow Island organization, where the strong are respected. Anyway, Euphena's orders had been completed and the desired results had been achieved. Yorick supported the decision of the first speaker without any dissatisfaction. The other two speakers and the lower-ranking members of the parliament also chose to agree with this conclusion. After Yorick's analysis, the pirate leaders seemed to have seen the scene of pirates establishing a country in the future and running rampant in the Slay Sea and coastal areas. No one raised any objections. After the meeting, everyone went back to their own homes. Yorick returned to the flagship of the Anchor Pirates moored in the main port of Shadow Island. Then, under his command, 30 warships of the Anchor Pirates left the port and headed for the Anchor Island, the headquarters of the Anchor Pirates. As for the captured sea creatures, more than 20 were left for the Shadow Island organization to study. Eupheny has already hypnotized these sea creatures, making them easier to tame. This is also to increase the persuasiveness of Yorick's words and make the pirates more determined to go to war. At the end of the previous meeting, after discussion, everyone decided to gather their own people and lead the backbone of their own pirate groups together on Shadow Island. At the same time, the highest level of orders were also issued to those small and medium-sized pirate groups that were not qualified to participate in the Shadow Island Council, and they were also required to gather their people together on Shadow Island. In addition to Shadow Island, the pirates could not find a better gathering place. Shadow Island is relatively large, and the pirate groups that are qualified to be stationed on Shadow Island have also established many ports. In addition to here, if the pirates of the entire Shadow Island organization are gathered together, there will be no place for the ships to dock. 5 days, this is the time set after everyone discussed. 5 days later, the large and small pirate groups of the Shadow Island organization will gather on Shadow Island, and the 4 speakers of the parliament will negotiate and coordinate to officially start the battle with the sea creatures that came to the coast of Slay's continent. Most of the warships of the Anchor Pirates were high quality ships looted from coastal countries, and they sailed at a relatively fast speed. In less than a day, 30 warships returned to the Anchor Island. At the same time, through the means of magic communication, almost all the pirate groups of the Shadow Island organization received the order issued by the parliament to reunite at the Shadow Island. Although in order to prevent large-scale leakage of information, the parliament did not explain the reason for the gathering to the pirate groups other than the attendees, but the Shadow Island organization has existed for decades after all, and the highest level order was issued. I think most of the pirate groups will gather obediently. Yorick, who returned to the Anchor Island, also began to integrate people and horses, and chose to bring the part that would fight against the Sea Tribe. First of all, the Night Elves who have been hiding their identities must be brought along. Without these Night Elves, the strength of the Anchor Pirates is just like that of an ordinary medium-sized pirate group. In addition, Yorick selected the most elite part of the pirates who have joined the Anchor Pirates during this period of time. The Night Elves need to hide their identities, and of course they need some human pirates to cover them. Chapter 325 Suspicion. While Yorick was selecting the pirate elites, Yufei was not idle either. The Night Elves ships came to Anchor Island again. This time, under Yufei's signal, the Night Elves injected more combat power into the Anchor Pirates. Of course, most of them were relatively inconspicuous, some such as Night Elf archers and Raptor druids. Originally, Yufei built some ancient war trees, the ancient wind trees, on Anchor Island, but the newly trained Night Elf archers were only elite level, and the second level arms such as druids were only ordinary level. Usually participating in ordinary battles of the pirate group can allow them to upgrade slowly, which can be regarded as training, but this time it is better to use the elite Night Elves from the Wind Whispering Forest for the big scene of fighting with the Sea Tribe. Many powerful Night Elf elites quietly integrated into the Anchor Pirates, and some elite and ordinary Night Elves who had just been trained on Anchor Island boarded the returning ship. Loaded on board with them were a large number of magic crystal, ore stored on Anchor Island. Because of the lack of split souls, the Tree of Life could not be built on the Anchor Island, and the magic crystal, ore could only be transported to the northern wasteland to convert into energy. After returning to the Wind Whispering Forest, the newly trained Night Elves will be led by their predecessors to the depths of the Warcraft mountains, to hunt Warcraft to gain experience, and advance to a higher level. Now the Night Elves have a complete set of procedures for training new recruits, to maximize the overall strength of the Night Elves. Sometimes Yufei also sighed that the Warcraft mountains are really a blessed place. When there is no war, the Night Elves have the vast Warcraft mountains behind them, and they can raise the newly trained Night Elves to the elite level by hunting Warcraft. For the Night Elves, there is nothing better than this. In addition, the Night Elves are advancing step by step, and have discovered more magic crystal veins in the Warcraft mountains. With the magic crystal veins on the existing territory of the Dark Knight Empire, Yufei no longer has to worry about energy shortages. Every moment, new Night Elf warriors are trained, and then enter the Warcraft mountains to improve their strength. It can be said that, because of the existence of the Monster Mountain range, the overall strength of the Night Elves is steadily developing every day. Watching the departure of the Night Elves fleet, Yufei quickly turned his head and looked at the Shark Warrior Forest Gump who was still tied to the flagship of the Anchor Pirates. Although more than 20 sea creatures were left in Shadow Island, Yufei still brought the leading Shark Warrior back. There are at least 4 days before the war with the Sea Tribe. Yufei plans to use this Shark Warrior to go to the bottom of the sea to investigate the situation of the Sea Tribe and the leading Naga tribe in detail. Although Yufei's strength will be greatly reduced after entering the sea, it is not so dangerous to inquire about the news and even reveal his identity to contact the Naga tribe through the controlled Sea Tribe. Like controlling Yorick, Yufei planted a spiritual seed in the mind of the Shark Warrior Forest Gump. Because the spiritual power of the Sea Tribe is generally weak, it is much easier for Yufei to control Forest Gump than to control Yorick. After confirming that he had completely controlled Forest Gump, Yufei used the leaf dance technique to cut off the chains that bound Forest Gump and let Forest Gump return to the Sea Tribe. Without the restraints, Forest Gump fully demonstrated the speed of a powerful Sea Tribe warrior in the sea. Compared with the pirates' warships, Forest Gump's speed is several times faster. Just from this aspect, Yufei was not optimistic about the war between the Shadow Island organization and the Sea Tribe, although this war was instigated by him. As Forest Gump moved forward, Yufei also felt the underwater world through Forest Gump. Generally speaking, Yufei, the avatar of the Elf King, can now spread his mental power to all places within 20 kilometers around him. If it is spread through the controlled unit, taking Yorick as an example, it can only spread to a circle with Yorick as a center and a diameter of 5 kilometers. In the sea, the spread of mental power is already weakened a lot, and it is spread through the controlled Forest Gump. Yufei suddenly found that he could only feel the situation within 1 kilometer around Forest Gump. This meant that he had to let Agan return to the depths of the Sea Tribe gathering place in order to feel the situation of the Naga tribe. As a shark warrior, Agan's endurance was very strong. He kept running several times faster than the warship and returned to the place where he encountered the pirate fleet. Then, Agon continued to go west, past a sea ridge, and entered a vast sea basin. Agon and the sea tribe team he led had only been absent for 2 or 3 days and did not cause much reaction from the sea tribe. Although the sea tribe has now been integrated into a part of the Naga tribe and gathered together, the connection between the various types of sea tribes and the sea tribes in various regions is still not very close, so no one noticed the disappearance of Agon's team. Now, only Agon, fish, appeared, but it caused a small-scale commotion. During this period, there were many teams that attacked the sea ships according to the Queen's instructions, and there were also casualties. But it was the first time that only the team leader ran back like this time. Yufei wanted Agon to take the opportunity to report the situation, to contact the mysterious Queen Ashura, but he did not expect to get this opportunity. Looking at the strong mermaid in front of him who was asking about Forrest Gump's experience, Yufei's mind was filled with thoughts. He recognized it at a glance. This mermaid was the Naga thug from the Naga tribe in Warcraft. Unlike the sea tribe in SLAs, this strong Naga thug was more human-like, unlike the native sea tribes who generally retained most of the sea beast form. In addition, Yufei could feel that, although the size of this Naga thug was not as big as the mountain giant of the Night Elves, in terms of the power contained in the body, it was not much weaker than the elite mountain giant. It seemed that it was really as he imagined. The Naga tribe that suddenly appeared among the sea tribe was the Naga tribe in Warcraft. Like other Warcraft monsters, the Naga tribe, which was also classified as a wild race in the game, was not a native species of SLAs, but a descended species. But obviously, the Naga tribe was different from other wild monster races. This race was originally designed as one of the new races in the Warcraft game, and even had its own buildings and arms. Judging from their behavior, the Naga tribe that had descended upon them had even integrated and ruled the local races, just like their own Night Elves. This made Yufei feel heavy-hearted. He couldn't help but have a suspicion. Could the mysterious Queen Ashura of the Naga tribe also be a time traveler like him? End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.